The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, hey, folks, welcome to the program. I am your host, Scotty Roberts. This is my show, the Intrepid radio program, and I want to welcome you. You can see the show live if you're not here already over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And I only bring that up because the only other places you're seeing this is Facebook and X, formerly Twitter, and a couple of other places. And the best place to find the chat room is right here on the YouTube channel. So once again, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Welcome to tonight's show. And I appreciate the fact that you're here. I want to welcome the early comers in the chat room. Field Guy, as always. And Kalina is here. And Sean Stroik is here. He says, what did Field Guide say? Field Guy says, I get called mama all the time. Oh, ma'am, all the time. A slip up of the tongue. Who calls you ma'am? And Sean Stroik told him, stop wearing the mini skirts, brother. And yeah, that's the way to avoid it. Randall Flagg, good to see you as well. And I've got to tell you all, I am so bloated that I'm ready to explode. I have one of those. Are any of you out there diabetic like I am? Well, every now and then I hit a dramatic low. And the reason I did that today was I have to take a little shot. Not scotch or anything good like that, but I got to stick myself and take a little shot before a meal. And that helps to level out my blood sugar while I'm eating. Well, I took a shot and I got involved in something else and totally forgot and didn't eat. And about a half an hour, 40 minutes later, I'm feeling it. And when you feel a low blood sugar, you start to get, oh, what'll I feel? I'll feel a little slightly disoriented, like, man, I'm kind of tired, I think. And then I will you'll sweat. And I could feel it on my lip, even under my mustache, yes. And on my back. And I thought, lethargic, that's the word. Field Guy, there it is. And I, of course, felt this, and I thought, oh, man. And so I took my blood sugar, and I was at something like 52, which your average low is supposed to be, really shouldn't be much less than 70. And so if that means anything to any of you. So I went, oh, okay, I better go upstairs and get something sugary, like a drink of something or a piece of candy laying around. And not under the sofa by any means, but I mean, bowl of stuff up there. And so I stagger upstairs and I realize just how low, and I take my blood sugar because I can do it right on my phone because I hold it up to this little thing. I got this little disc here on the back of my arm, and that reads my blood, and found out I was quite low. It would have dropped into the upper 40s. And I said, whoa, and I'm staggering kind of over to the kitchen, and Rainey says, you all right? My daughter said, Dad, you look really bad. And I said, I thought I looked really good today. Yeah, my tan is up a little and blah, blah, blah. So I went into the kitchen and I cracked open one of those brand new lemonades because I thought fruit juice. And of course, when you got these sugar lows, you don't always think clearly. I've done it before where it hits me in the middle of the night and it wakes me up. And I go upstairs, I stagger upstairs, and I'll eat like 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that I slap together and drink a bunch of fruit juice and eat some candy and this and that. And I go back downstairs, and when I wake up in the morning, my blood sugar is like 300 because I overdid it. I wasn't metering myself, and you don't think clearly. So I ended up, I cracked open one of those, the Simply Orange juices. They're like 2-liter bottles, I think. And this was the Simply Lemonade. And I cracked one of those open, and I started chugging that. And everybody was like, hey, we're having some pizza, Dad. Mom just made pizza. So I had 2 slices of pizza. And then Rainey brought me over a couple of chocolate-covered cherries. Popped those babies. And then I promptly, the fallout from that is you get tired. And so I fall asleep. So I fall asleep on the sofa for about an hour and a half. And I wake up and I go, whoa, what time is it? I got a radio show to do. That was about 8:35. And it's now 9:09. So a little over half an hour ago. And I looked over and I realized I had drunk that whole thing of lemonade, save for about that much at the bottom. And so I am simply bloated from Simply Lemonade tonight. So yeah. So that's what I experienced this evening prior to coming in here. My eyes are slits because my brain is not fully awake yet. Well, I think my brain's awake. My face has not followed suit and woken up quite yet. So, but that's how I'm feeling coming into the show today. I'm feeling bloated and tubby and over lemonaded and at least not over eliminated. And I am simply bloated from Simply Lemonade. So there we go. Way too much of that. My recommendation, don't drink a whole bottle of Simply Lemonade for any reason. It's going to get you at one sitting. So it's gonna overdo you. So now my blood sugar is up. It's higher than it's supposed to be, but it'll come back down because it's temporary. And I don't want to take a shot for that yet because I just came out of a low. So I've got to work it out tonight while we're doing the show. I've got to exercise. Yeah, sounds like Surefire ad. Yeah, there you go. And so been there, done that, says Field Guy. Yeah, you get that, that blood sugar low, which puts you into some kind of lethargy, and then you overdo it trying to work your way back up. And if nobody's watching what you're doing, you could just simply overdo it. So that's how I'm coming to you tonight, fresh, live, bloated, simply bloated on Simply Lemonade. And we'll go from there. So have any of you ever been, here's a quick segue. Have you ever been bullied as a kid? Somebody called you names? Somebody threw vile epithets at you? Oh, here you go. By the way, I just saw this, Kevin Miller. My niece is currently in the ICU because she forgot to bring her insulin when she went to visit her brother. She collapsed in the bathroom. Oh, man, I am sorry to hear that, Kevin. That I have never really collapsed from this. Maybe once way back when I was doing the Renaissance Festival, I had a day I was supposed to sing with the group that I was with, and I must have been a blood sugar low because I was not used to any of this. It was still fairly new. I was diagnosed in 2003, and it was right around that time. I think it was the same year. And I missed my performance that I was supposed to be on stage. And because of that, I just kind of lost it. And I did probably what happened to me today. And I ended up sitting down in a friend's booth, one of the crafters, and I missed the show, not even realizing or even thinking about it. But it hasn't happened to me often like that, where I've never really collapsed from it. But I suppose tonight, Sarah Youssef knows. She's had some conversations with me about my blood sugar. She works with this all the time. So but today, Probably would have been close if I'd have let it go. I was sitting here working on something, and that's when I felt the low, and I thought, I'm good. I'll be good for a few. Let me get this finished. I gotta reach this goal, then I'll run upstairs and get some fruit juice or something to eat. And I waited a little too long. And Sarah, you may have missed the first part of the story. I just overcompensated on my blood low and went and drank almost a whole thing of Simply Lemonade, and because nobody was watching me. So I checked it when I felt weird, and I was at I think 52. So not to repeat the story for those of you who are here and heard it earlier, but yeah, I was at 52, and by the time I got upstairs, I was at like 48. And so Rainey said, "You okay? You need help?" And of course, I'm like, "Guys, so what do you say?" "No, I got this. I don't need help. It's just blood sugar. It's just drinking some juice." And so, yeah, I drank the juice, and then I fell asleep. Yeah, nobody could watch you. You wasn't live yet. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, no, Sarah, I appreciate that. I'm good. I know exactly what I did. I just Sarah asked, for those of you who are not seeing the chat room, you need me to call later. Sarah's been just fantastic because she works with this stuff all the time, and she's walked me through a lot of really good things to do. No, tonight I just Sarah, how you get a little lethargic. Thank you for reminding me of that word, field guy, when you go really low. And so what I did was I get that way, and all of a sudden, my brain says, compensate for the low, get some sugar in your system. And so I did that, but sometimes I overdo it. So, and I overdid that tonight. And then I fell asleep after that. I always get tired after that. It's been anytime this has ever happened, if it's an extreme low, I get tired and I fall asleep. So everybody's watching TV, and I fell asleep on the sofa. And then I got cold. It's funny. It's warm here. It's in the 80s. I got cold because I'd been sweating from the blood low, and after I sweat enough, my body cooled way down. And I grabbed a blanket that was laying there, or a throw, and I just threw it over me and went to sleep. How's this for scintillating radio, folks? Talking to you about my blood sugar low. But maybe we could turn this into a helpful segment if you've got diabetes. I don't have any good advice to give you other than try not to let your blood sugar get so low. But you got to watch it, and it doesn't happen often anymore. But it happened today, and it's only because I took my shot so I could eat something. Then I got involved in something else and totally forgot, and that I was going to eat something, and I forgot to eat, and that's when it hit me, and it dropped me way down. So I'm good. It's good that people were here, but I don't think I was in any danger zone. I was just low, and I had to stagger up and take care of it. So, which I did. And of course, you eschew any kind of help. I'm a guy. I've got this. I'm good. And so there you go. Let's get on with it here. Now that I've kind of repeated the whole thing, I just that was for Sarah's benefit, because she has been a good help to me, and she's been somebody who's talked to me. And so there you go. Kevin Miller says, I was bullied in elementary and high school. I remember, Kevin, I'm a few years ahead of you in school, but I remember that. You carried a briefcase to school. I remember that every day, and that didn't help. And it stopped when people realized I could help them with their schoolwork. Yeah, that was it. That's what kind of got you through. I was a nerd of a different kind, and if you don't mind, you were a nerd back then. You had the dark rim glasses, if I remember right, and you carried a briefcase, and so you were kind of a I don't think anybody warned you that you were a walking target at that time for getting bullied or teased or whatever. And but I do remember you from those days. Oh, I've got a yearbook sitting around here somewhere Oh, it's over on that bookshelf. I've still got my old Fourth Baptist High School yearbooks, Kevin. I could probably look you up. Yeah, it's socially awkward. I get that. And you were kind of socially awkward, and I was too in a different way. And so you know, there's that. I liked Star Trek. I was a Star Trek geek in high school. But yeah, so that is our topic tonight. Is talking about bullying, only because I had somebody, and you may have seen my post over on my social media. I said, well, somebody called me a. I'm not going to say it right away on air because YouTube kind of tags my my post and deletes my monetization if I say the word too much. But somebody called me a dumb fuck. There, I whispered it. Maybe YouTube didn't hear it, or the bots won't be able to recognize it. And I thought that was really out of place. And it's not that I'm some kind of shrinking wallflower, and it's like, oh, somebody called me a name, because I'm a grown up. I'm not a kid. And when I was a kid, it could have crushed me, but uh, yeah, there it is, field guy, a dumb cluck. And so I'm no wallflower, but I thought, wow, that's really, and it was all over a misunderstanding of what I had said. I was talking about cardboard and recycling, and this person thought I was making a dig on them of a totally different nature. And yeah, well, you're just a, oh, wait a minute. But the ease with which our society, especially nowadays, falls into the insulting, I think comes from once again, it's the whole, and I see my kids doing it all the time. It's the whole world is right here, oh, there it is. And they learn this kind of social interaction, and it's social interaction that you start typing in answers to things. You see people, my kids watch videos all the time. I'm like, okay, that's enough. You got to get off of that for a while. There needs to be certain times of the day you can do it. You don't get to do it all day. And I see some of the things that they watch, and I'm like, stop watching that. It's more to it than that, but because I look at that and I watch the way that people interact online, and they start picking up those fast insults, those quippy insults that are fine, if you're adults, and they're fine once in a while. But my kids have started incorporating that into the way they daily talk to us, to Rainey and I. And I'm like, that's not the one who called me the dumb cluck, by the way. It was not one of my children, just to make that clear. But Rainey and I are all the time with our kids. Hey, you don't talk to us that way. I'm sorry. You said what to me? You used what language with me? You used what phraseology with me? I have said to my 12-year-old especially, sometimes my 9-year-old, she picks it up from the older ones, and the 14-year-old, they're like, they say stuff to me, and I stop and I say, hey, let me remind you of something. I am not one of your silly friends in the hallway at school that you can talk to that way. I'm your dad. And one of the ones that my 12-year-old picked up, and she was doing this a year or so ago, she started calling me bro. Hey, bro. Hey, that's not cool, bro. I said, excuse me? And it happened a few times because she was in such a habit of saying, that's not cool, bro. I'm not going to do that, bro. I said, hey, bro, I'm not your bro. First of all, let me clear something up for you. And secondly, and we've talked about this on the show before, I am not my children's friend. Parents are not friends, bruh, JP says. We're not your friends. We can do friendly things and have fun together and really enjoy each other and love each other, but I'm not your friend. That comes later in life. I'm your parent. And so I see things that my kids do. Yeah, we are not our children's cronies. Ain't that the truth, Michelle Canham? Free. And so this is very true. But I'm watching the way that this unfolds, and I'm seeing the way people work, talk to each other. And this is not new nowadays. We've all realized this a few years ago. We saw this all creeping up. Maybe some of this was a hangover from COVID days. I don't know exactly. I think it's all due to social media and the way people communicate, and how easy it is to be nasty to somebody in social media because they're hiding behind a keyboard. You don't have to see them face to face. I've said to people in some things over the years, and this was a few years ago, still 3, 4, 5 years ago, I've said to people, hey, if you were to say that to me, if we were standing face to face, you'd probably get a throat punch. I said, don't talk to me that way. And oh, you're getting violent now. And then out come the name calling and all that. And I said, look, if you want to have a conversation and a debate, you can debate me all you want. You can dialogue. I don't even have to be right, even though I am usually. But don't you use that language with me, and don't you start calling me those kinds of names. You've just won your point. You've won me over to your point because you called me a dumb cluck. We're going to use that tonight. Use that way. Sarah says social media is a great equalizer, where in reality it's hierarchical. Isn't that the truth? I will get into some quippy conversations with people, political things, groups I'm a member of, and I always get well, if you don't, what are you doing here? Why don't you just leave? If you don't like it, I said, I've been here for 11 years on this guy's page. I'm no troll and new to this. If you're going to put out a public post, or the owner of this blog or this page is going to put out a public post to all his followers, why do the only people who are allowed to say anything in here have to agree with him, if he's opening it up for everybody to see and everybody to comment? I said, somebody who's really good at that is George Takei, formerly Mr. Sulu of the original Star Trek series. He is out there. He is a leftist progressive activist. And I could just drop him, but I think it's interesting to watch his posts, because you get off of his posts the way that group of people thinks. And everything he puts up is what was that? I know you would. Oh, okay, something different. When Michelle Canham Free speaks, I usually look, because I think it's something pertinent. She's talking to somebody else in the chat room. So when I look at his posts, the kind of posts he puts up are things to, I don't know, poke the bear, or things that are appealing to his followership and that mindset. But he is also, all of his source material comes from these far leftist, activist, progressive news sources. I'm not even talking CNN or MSNBC or anything like that. I'm saying that he will put up stuff from these weird ass sites. There's some name calling for you right there. These weird ass sites that have no handle on objectivity. And the things he puts up are just ridiculous. And I don't even know if it's him. He might have hired somebody that takes care of his page for him, because he never responds to anybody. He never talks back. He just puts up the post, which tells me it's either not really him, or it's him and he doesn't care what he's saying. He just says his spiel and moves on and doesn't even watch what he's saying. So you're the only one who listens, Scotty Roberts. Haha, says Michelle Canham Free. Oh, thank you. Sulu banned me for calling him a flaming homo, and that's the truth, said Field Guy. Well, you probably would get banned for saying something like that. Not that I don't like you, Field Guy. Stand up for your right to free speech. But somebody like that is going to ban you for that. I can tell you that. I've said some pretty edgy things to him. I've never insulted who he is or what he chooses or what he was born to be. No matter how you look at it, he's gay. So what? That's his thing. I don't care. But that's his life. He can live it the way he wants to. But when he puts up posts, I sometimes comment over there on his page, and you get attacked by dozens of people every time you say something that doesn't go along with the flow. And I try to present facts. I say, well, that's not factual. I have sometimes made my jibes by saying, you keep saying how much you like Biden and hate Trump. I said, but you only ever talk about Trump. Tell me something. I said, George, put up something about Biden that's truthful. And, what did they get on Trump for the other day? It's something like Trump called the New York Fire Department the NYFD, which is what you think it would be, the New York Fire Department. But in New York, since 9/11, they've called them the FDNY, Fire Department of New York or something like that. They flipped that acronym around. And here's George Takei getting on there, and his main post is Trump is obviously lost his mind, has no cognitive awareness, is dropping into senility. He can't even remember the acronym for the New York Fire Department because he called them the NYFD instead of the FDNY. And I said, I did say something in there. I said, hey, my 14-year-old son, who is nowhere near senility, can't even remember what an acronym is. I said, so if Donald Trump mentioned the acronym backwards, I said, I rather doubt that is a strong indicator that he is. I said, why don't you put President Trump up against President Biden in a one-on-one debate and see who comes out at the end? So Trump is not cognitively slipping. So this is the kind of thing that gets posted. But the bullying in there is unbelievable, is the point I was going to make. And some of the things said in there are absolutely unbelievable. I was actually going to call up George Takei, and let's see if I can find him here. Sometimes people respond to things I say over there, and sometimes they don't. Let's see, where have we got it here? Because I think that this is interesting. Just to take a look at this. Let's see. Here you go. It's a post as simple as George Takei says, this week, President Joe Biden announced a $3.3 billion investment by Microsoft in a Racine, Wisconsin AI data center that will create thousands of jobs. Good on Joe for delivering where the Donald has fallen short time and time again. For this and more progressive victories, check out this edition of the Week in Wins at my link in bio. And I had put my response there. I said, let's see how it pans out in the long run. An announcement is not the same thing as an accomplishment. And of course, I get all kinds of responses to me on that kind of stuff. And so I think it's very interesting, the kinds of things that get said. And where is this? Trump. Oh, here's his big one. He's got a picture of Trump shouting, and it says Trump shares fake quote from a Wharton professor, Wharton schools. Shares a fake quote. I don't know what the quote was. Maybe he was paraphrasing him. I don't think he just made something up to make shit up. But he might have been saying, I've quoted my old professor, Dr. Ailing. I don't remember an exact quote, but I'll make up something that paraphrases him. And so George Takei says, there's nothing he won't lie about. All his followers. Now listen to this this is what I'm talking about. Social media. This ties into bullying and all of the name calling. How's the ginger snap enormity not had a stroke yet? They're talking about Trump. It's so funny that you guys treat him like a politician. He's not. He's a showman. The gullible fall for the brainwashing. So we've been called gullible if you support Trump. And Trump a brainwasher. There's name calling right there. I just wish the late Hannibal Lecter had him over for dinner. These are the kinds of the intelligent responses you're getting to this. As one person put it, he inhales air and exhales lies. As long as people keep buying, he'll keep selling. This must be in between when he's praising cannibalism and admitting to lusting after his own daughter. Vote blue, stand up for democracy, somebody yells. In all caps and exclamation points. The day he tells the truth or says anything of substance, I believe he would burst into flames. Now you can see the intellectual level of this discourse that's going on here. And what is that quote? He shares a wrong quote or a wrong person's quote. This is one person. Some people go in and support Trump or go against what George is saying. And they said, and what is that quote? He shares a wrong quote or a wrong person's quote or a wrong name of a person who made that quote. By the way, copying a quote from someone is not wrong. Speaker's always done that. Now, that's not the strongest I've ever heard, but then people jump on that person. There's an article that goes with the post. I suggest you actually read it. No thanks, says somebody else. In short, his old professor actually said that Trump was the dumbest student he had ever showed no interest in actually learning anything since he thought that he already knew everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are the kinds of things you can't. All he knows is lying, says someone else. Can't he just disappear? So these are the kinds of things. And I saw different things this afternoon when I first saw that post and commented on it. And I saw all kinds of different things, just really weird. So Hannibal was still at large, I thought. I have no idea, Randall Flagg. I have no idea. Randall Flagg says Ford loses $100,000 per electronic vehicle. Yeah, I've read that. I didn't know the figure per se, but I've heard that Ford has lost a lot of money on electric vehicles. So my only point with bringing up George Takei and all of that kind of talk and the political talk is that's one of the best places where you see that there is name calling on an adult level, which is just dumb. There. Have I called anybody a dummy? You're going to see, because I've got 13 myths that we're going to debunk about name calling. But I also have something that is name calling, why it hurts, and how we are supposed to respond. And how do you respond when somebody name calls you? Is it sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? Well, that's not true. Words do hurt. And words can hurt people. Words can cause a lot of damage to people, especially younger people. But let's look at this first. I want to look at the 13 myths that this one psychologist, Jeremy Sherman, says name calling is all about. The 13 myths you'll be relieved to debunk. Calling someone a name caller is actually name calling. He starts off. Now, myth number 1, you don't name call. You don't do it, meaning don't name call people. But of course we do. When you say someone is kind, male, a Christian, a badass, a gent, a Warriors fan, a CPA, a realtor, or a doctor, know what you're doing? You're name calling. Not in the same sense that we're thinking, but that is name calling. Myth number 2, people hate to be called names. Not necessarily. Look at the shirt I'm wearing. It says Spook Boy. You know what this was? This was one of my original monikers on the internet back in the Irk and Merk chat days, MIRC or IRC chatting days. I went into some of these paranormal chat rooms, and that was my moniker, was Spook Boy. And and that was, God, almost 20 years ago, it seems, I think, when we were doing that. But so we do call names. People hate to be called names. That's a myth. We love a label that makes it easy for people to recognize us. We even dress to be stereotyped like that, sending social mating calls to like-minded people and people who use a person like us. Self-flattery is self-name calling. I'm a nice guy. I'm a decent guy. I'm a good lay, some would say. That's all name calling. We brand ourselves. So when someone compliments you, don't say, "Hey now, shame on you. Don't call me that name." Myth number 3, negative name calling is always bad. Well, it's okay to call Stalin an evil man, right? Or Hitler an evil genocidal maniac. Is it okay to call them those names? Is it okay to call a con artist who's ripped off everyone on your block a con artist? Should you call a pedophile a pedophile? No one owes us their trust and faith, folks. We have to earn a positive reputation. What do people call you? Interesting. Wouldn't it be interesting to find out what people call you behind your back? Behind your back, are they calling you a dumb cluck? There you go. That's all in Richard the Lionhearted, says Sarah. There's a name calling. Field Guy says, my official title is Lord Emperor. Who calls you that, Field Guy? I'm just curious. What did I see? Did I see something from Kevin Miller? It sounds like they were just giving a Trump a taste of his own medicine, says Kevin Miller. Maybe so. Trump's a big name caller. And I think that's where people got that. Because, you know, Trump has come out with a lot of great name calling. And many of the people on the right that support him, they go along with it. Yeah, crooked Joe Biden, or used to be crooked Hillary. Can't remember what he calls her now. But anyway, Trump was the king of that. He was the king of name callers. Delaney Pearl Jones says, I got a great video where I call him creepy summum bitch. Summum a bitch. Who, George Takei or Biden? The creepy summum a bitch. So, being called bad names is a cost to be borne by those who fail to earn a positive reputation. Society is held together by good people warning each other about bad people. You ever have your credit score checked? Good people are supposedly the ones warning everybody else about the bad people who have, they've fallen under 600 on their credit. Don't rent them an apartment, kind of thing, you know? Negative name calling is social shorthand. And of course, you don't want to just go around name calling. You want to name call with care and precision. That's something I always liked about, Joe. You're right, Delaney. I have to agree with you there. What I call Joe Biden creepy? Yeah. What I don't do in public discourse when talking about Biden, I don't call him names. I just say, now the closest I've come, I'll call him feckless. But how many times have you heard me say on this show, and that I say many times in public, is look, Joe Biden, whatever he is, he's not what he once was. I used to like Joe Biden. I had respect for him for somebody whose views I did not agree with. I did not like his political ideology, but I thought he was a good-hearted man. And he said some pretty good things 20 years ago, believe it or not. Right now, I believe Joe Biden is being used. I can't believe that they're actually going to run him. By the time the convention happens, they'll be replacing him. You can start laying some odds on that one. because they aren't going to run somebody they know is going to lose. Because Joe Biden is not going to make it. There is nobody with the approval ratings he has that has ever been elected president. So it's just not going to happen. He'll be replaced. But I've always referred to Joe as a man who he had a legacy already. He wanted to be president so bad. And the people that got him in there were the ones that played into that, I'm sure. It played into his own ego, but Joe Biden had a legacy. He was vice president to one of the most charismatic, whether you liked him or not, one of the most charismatic presidents around in recent days, and that was Barack Obama. He was the vice president for 8 years. You know what? All done with that. You've been 45 years in Congress, and then you topped it off with the last 8 years of that being the vice president of the United States. Time to build your vice presidential library. You're in your mid to late 70s. Retire, go fishing, have a good time. But no, he got lured into it, and his wife probably especially. And I always say, Joe Biden, I don't blame him for a lot of what's going on right now. So I don't think he's the brains behind any of it. So there, you can take that one and do with it what you will. He was forced into running because they know his dementia was going to be an easy target to control. Exactly. And you look at how they're trying to control the narrative with that now. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, number 4 out of 13. Number 4, name callers are bad people, so you can ignore what they say. Now, did you know the name caller, using the words name caller, is a name? If someone calls you a name caller, they're name calling. When a moral principle contradicts itself, it's no longer a moral principle. It's a moral dilemma. Don't be a name caller. So be intolerant of intolerance. And you shouldn't be negative. All contradict themselves, all those phrases. The question isn't whether to name call, be tolerant, or be negative. It's under what circumstances to do so. And those are dilemmas we deal with lifelong, attentive to circumstances. So it's not wrong to call names. If I knew a pedophile was living on my block, I would probably call that out. Hey, dude down there in the White House with the blue shutters, pedophile. Watch your kids. And I probably wouldn't want him living in my neighborhood. Is that right of me? Well, maybe he's, maybe he's reformed. No, I don't think so. Good-hearted, says Steph, like the way he uses his wife's death. And Steph, put that in context. I'm not saying I believe he is now. I believe he's riddled with dementia right now. I'm saying there was a point 20 years ago where I thought he was a decent guy. This is even before his son died of brain cancer or whatever it was. You said, like the way he used his wife's death and son's accident to get the poor Joe to be sworn in. He dragged reporters into his kid's hospital room to be sworn in, that feckless hack. There you go. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm saying there was I said back then, yeah. There was a time before I knew much about Joe Biden at all, other than hearing him in some political debates or things he was doing in Congress. I didn't know what he was doing about his ex-wife or his wife or his kids or whatever. I didn't know anything personally about him. At the time where I thought, he seems like a decent guy. That was a time where I didn't know much about him at all. And he seemed to sometimes come across saying some pretty good things. Yeah, you're talking years ago. Yeah. He might not have been, Steph. He might not have been good back then. Not everybody knew that. At the time, I didn't pay much attention to him back then. So before you knew, Joe's mentor was Bird, the Grandmaster of the KKK, right, Scotty? Yeah, pretty much, Pearl Jones. I didn't know much about that at all. And I didn't know that was Joe Biden's big mentor until years later. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know about Joe Biden. So, anyway, the plagiarism, yeah, I wasn't aware of that 20 years ago. I didn't care back then. I wasn't paying attention to Joe Biden's personal life. So, yeah, some of that stuff is out there. We can keep bringing up examples. Go ahead in the chat room. God knows they do it for his opponent. So, anyway, moving on. See, we're all using name calling now, so we know name calling isn't a bad thing. Myth number 5. A principled ban on negative name calling makes us wiser. That's a myth. To pretend that all negative name calling is bad will stunt your growth and moral dilemmas. You'll have no reason to wonder whether someone should be called a name. You'll name call, everyone does, and pretend that you don't. To square your practice with your fake principled opposition to name calling, you'll have to indulge in unhinged word mincing hypocrisy, such as, I didn't just call you a name, I simply described your character. That's totally different. It's like, no, you're not a lying sack of shit. But you know, your dishonesty can be really stinky if you're not careful. And, we mince words about it. Number 6, negative name calling never, ever persuades anyone. Now, can you find even one exception to this rule? It could be pretty easy. Did someone ever level a name at you that made you think twice about your behavior? If so, then never doesn't apply. The myth that name calling never persuades is often associated with another self-contradicting moral myth. You can't change anyone, which translates as, let me persuade you that no one can ever be persuaded of anything. So, yeah, you just say it, says Steph. I just called you a name. So I tend to try to not use name calling because I view it, this is a personal thing for me. I would rather not have anybody be able to look back at things I say and say, oh, he's just a name caller. You know, the arguments we're talking about here. Because I would rather have somebody listen to what I say because I'm attempting to the best of my ability to use intellectual discourse to explain an issue without calling. I remember when the big thing about Trump being the orange clown in the office, Oval Office or something. And I said to somebody, I said, see, it's the words you're using. I said, you've never once heard me say, talking about Obama as the purple eggplant in the office. Oh, you're racist. I had a post of mine removed because that came up in the dialogue. Because I was saying to somebody, well, you're calling Trump an orange turd. Should I then be calling Obama the purple eggplant? I said, no. I said, what good does that get us? Where does it get us? It still got banned because I said it. And I got pulled. Myth number 7. Negative name calling pigeonholes people for life and is therefore immoral. Now, parents might have that kind of sway over young children's self-image, but adults, come on. Since when are we crippled for life by someone's opinion of us? You know, I have taken, the older I get, and maybe this is part of being an old man or a burgeoning old man, that I'm name calling myself an old man. I don't care. It's like if somebody, now, can I be very honest and say it never bothers me when I get name called? It does sometimes because I go, wow, is that what I do? But pretty much your opinion doesn't bother me. And I've used it a few times. I like the Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday from Tombstone. It shows him and he's holding his little silver cup. And he says, sir, in order for you to be able to insult me, I must first respect your opinion. And I'm kind of that way. That's basically a polite way of saying, fuck off. I don't really care what you think about me. So I don't care, is what it comes down to. Negative name calling is often a predictive opinion. Since you've behaved this way, I'm guessing I can count on you to behave this way in the future. Is the way that comes down to us. Adults recognize that negative name calling is a prediction not about your eternal organic composition, but about a lifestyle that you chose, that you could change if you wanted to. They call you a name hoping that you'll change. I had a friend, a good-looking friend, suave, good-looking friend, who was very well-known, a very good-hearted person. People liked him. But, man, he had a list of the ladies that he had bedded along, but he wasn't a creep about it. They all wanted to be with him. But he had this list, and so we knew him as what he did gain a reputation for being kind of a serial philanderer. And he was never married at the time, but he did a lot. He was a serial cheater. It's called, my wife referred to him as that. But still liked the man, and everybody liked him, but he was a serial cheater. Could he change? Were we being predictive about his future? Saying, well, he's done it all along. He's going to do it again. So they call you a name hoping that you'll change. They honor you by not humoring you, but by trusting that you might still do better if you got some blunt negative feedback. And they could be wrong. Their name calling is just an opinion. Let's see. Nothing wrong with a good bowl of cereal, says Field Guy. There you go. There it is. Michelle Canapri says, I'm losing my filter as I wizen. I think we all do, to a certain extent. Field Guy says he never cheats on cereal, except Captain Crunch. Yeah, you've been seen going out with that toucan with the fruit flavored loops. Field Guy, I know. Captain would be awfully jealous. Myth number 8, negative name calling proves that the name caller is a person upholding high moral standards. Thank you for playing. That's a myth. Sometimes we flip it. To name call proves that you're qualified to police the world on morality. And if you decide that someone is a loser, then they are, which proves that you're an excellent judge of character. And this has become popular recently with the GOP and the Democratic Party. No longer political parties, but parties celebrating their right to police the world on all moral issues by means of unfettered hypocrisy. By the way, saying the word unfettered makes me think of John Fetterman. Remember all the hue and cry when he was elected to office? He's kind of this big ogre-y looking dude that got elected to the Senate and wears hoodies and shorts, big baggy shorts. And we thought, oh boy, there goes. How could this guy get elected to office? Yet I have seen more times where and by the way, when he, and then he had his stroke and stuff like that, and there was all that problem. Nobody could understand him. He couldn't put sentences together. Everybody's just blasting him. But I got to tell you something. He's come out with some things that I agree with. And I've come to have a new respect for the guy that was name called by the right immensely. And I'm on the right. I'm a conservative. And I love his stance on Israel. He said Israel is our ally. And he basically told protesters who were confronting him while he was sitting on a bench outside the Capitol, having a cup of tea or something. And they were approaching him. They were trying to blast him. And he's basically, get out of my face. You know why? I disagree with you. It's that simple. I think you're in the wrong. Go away. And he's made some pretty intelligent comments about that. And there's other issues that I've agreed with. That's somebody that the right name called and blasted. So on one hand, you've got the party that freaks out at the accusations that some of its supporters are deplorables, and on the other hand, elevate a confident name caller president to the seat of God's right hand. And it's one of the oldest cheap tricks in the book. Relentless offense posing as defense. Listen to Joe Biden from his Hitler-esque speech about a year ago. Fists in the air, the big red banners behind him. Really bad staging, by the way. I got to tell you, the people who staged that event, it couldn't have looked more like a Nuremberg rally than the Nuremberg rally. So, yeah, and that's right, Steph. Just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Damn straight. So, if you police other people relentlessly, the sound of your policing drowns out all challenges to yourself. So with your constant police siren blare, punish others, make noise that you care, drown out with that din all concern that you sin, dread self-doubting you never need hear. So yeah, the political parties do it all the time. And we might think Trump is the master name caller. Look at what the left calls the right. You get an idea. So look at Joe Biden's written tirades, meaning written by someone else, the authored tirades that he repeats off the teleprompter against MAGA people. And you get an idea. Number 9, a total ban on name calling keeps society civil. A ban on name calling. Two things here. First, while civil society is valuable, it's not the only one, or even the highest priority value. We have to get along with each other, but it's more importantly, we have to get along with reality. In a civil society, you can be both civil and realistic. But when tyrants take over, acting like they can overrule reality, something has to give. So between honesty and civility should be the first to go, according to these people. Second, a total ban on name calling doesn't work. You can't ban name calling. The hypocritical tyrants are going to shame people for calling them names and then name call to their heart's content. So when dealing with tyrants and idiots, there's a good name call. 2 names right there. Tyrant, you're a tyrant. You're an idiot. You have to try to keep up with escalating rashly. You can't keep up if you shrivel when tyrants call you a name caller. And we often hear another bogus principle. 2 wrongs never make a right. Never? 2 wrongs, we always used to say, and you've all heard this, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do. But 3 rights make a left. That's what it is. So exceptions are easy to find. It should read, escalate warily. So can 2 wrongs ever make a right? Yeah, probably. I don't teach my kids that. I tell my kids to be right, to think level-headed. Well, why did you do that? Because she did it first. I said, well, then you've just validated what she did. If it's wrong to be done to you, then it's also wrong for you to do it to somebody else. In little kid bickering, anyway. Little kid bickering land. Myth number 10, never ever name call using nouns. But it's okay to use adjectives, adverbs, and verbs. Never say, you're a slouch. But it's fine to say, you're being lazy, acting lazily, or doing a lazy job. So this is again to blame the sin, not the sinner, which is likewise this bogus moral principle. People who blame sinners are sinners. And it's true that nouns can suggest permanence, but they don't always. Spanish and other languages have two versions of is, one for permanent traits. My name is Elena, versus temporary traits. She is here. So English doesn't do that so much. So we're left to intuit whether someone is implying a permanent or temporary trait. And so the fake moral principle has loopholes. There's no real difference between you're a slouch and you're always lazy. So whether to use nouns or other descriptives is a strategic issue, not a moral one. And if you're not getting through to someone about their consistency or their consistently frustrating behavior, you're free to escalate to nouns. And again, don't just name call. Name call with careful precision. And remember, it's your opinion. And if you bet that it would be useful to soften an accusation, declare that it's your subjective opinion. I'm betting that you're a narcissist. Might even be more strategically adept than you are always narcissistic. Myth number 11. When someone negatively name calls, always deny it vigorously. So there's times when you have to defend yourself, but not as often as our hearts assume, and denying it often backfires. Name calling is an opinion. Ingest it and digest it on your own time. Trust your gut to sort out what, if anything, is nutritious in the negative feedback and what's waste. Just someone's irrelevant opinion. And it's not that names will never hurt me, like I alluded to before. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they hurt a lot. For example, doing unfair damage to your reputation. But when they don't, take a moment to think about whether the thing they're accusing you of is something we all do. Proud name callers are often hypocrites. Much better at dishing it out than taking it in. Hypocritical moral police abound, claiming that name callers are bad. Are you a liar? Sure you are. Everyone's in that. Everyone twists the truth. Everyone ignores what's inconvenient some of the time. So instead of playing into the hypocritical moral police's false puritanism, say, well, obviously, I lie sometimes, like you, like everyone. But here's the difference. I don't lie about my lying. I don't pretend that I don't pretend that I don't lie the way you do. I try to figure out when lying helps and when it hurts. So I try not to lie. Have I ever stretched the truth? Yeah. Have I ever been what I would call an out-and-out liar, like Michael Cohen? No, that's not what I do. Have I ever lied to cover my ass? Yeah, sometimes. Generally not in the huge things. And when you do, you generally are so bad at it, you get caught anyway, almost right away. Myth number 12. Wait, let me see what everybody's saying. Kalena said, I liked Ventura when he was governor. I remember when he said, I'm not going to legislate stupidity when the snowmobilers drown. Yeah, I liked him for that. Don't legislate against snowmobiling because stupid people got killed doing stupid things. You notice how so much of our legislation is based on not the majority, not even the vast majority, not even the minor majority. The minor majority, meaning the lesser number of majority. it's based on the stupid people or the criminals. A criminal can do that to 19 people, and that makes up legislation for the other 350 million of us. So, number 12, name calling never improves things. That's a myth. If someone tries to lay down some moral law like name calling never improves people's behavior and backs it up with examples of name calling not helping, look for an exception. If you can find even one, then apparently it's not an absolute law. If I look at Joe Biden and I say he's a feckless moron, let's use that as a name. Am I wrong? Nope. So is that wrong to do? Would that never improve things? If you're talking about the way the country's running, he's a feckless idiot. Well, prove it. I can. I'll show you. So the name calling can sometimes. Does knowing that a pedophile's moved into your neighborhood, like we just talked about a few minutes ago, improve the pedophile's behavior? Maybe not. Doesn't improve his behavior, but it improves our awareness that he's got that behavior. But there's more to life than changing the incorrigible. There's also protecting the neighborhood. And the final myth I have is myth 13, folk diagnosis of people is not name calling. So that's a myth. Calling someone a narcissist or a psychopath is more severe than calling someone a jerk, because it implies that you're in possession of some objective scientific fact about their permanent condition when you're not. You're expressing a subjective opinion, as though you're just calling a spade a spade. So I got to tell you, all the stuff we heard about Trump was a narcissist and all of this, I'm bringing back politics because it's fresh in all of our minds. 99.99999% of the people using that word had no idea of any kind of psychological information on Donald Trump, but they used it. Now, could you say, if I call Biden somebody who is suffering from dementia, that he's a senile old man? Is that my opinion if I don't have the medical information to back that up? Yeah, Elderberry, it is 10:10 already. How about that? It's almost 10:11 in 5 seconds. So, can we say that Biden is suffering from dementia? Yeah. Can I call him a senile old man? Yeah, if I want to be crass about it. But I would more look at it and say, the guy we have in office as president is obviously suffering some kind of mental cognition problem. You can be polite and use all those words or say he's a senile old man. One's name calling, one isn't really. But many times, calling people those names, psychopath, narcissist, etc., those are opinions. They're not based on any kind of fact. So there you go. There's our 13 myths. There might be more, but I think that pretty much covers the bases when it comes to this stuff. Some interesting chat going on there. Field guy, Joe Biden is the only person I know who falls upward on stairs. Well, you know me, I've done it. But not because my legs don't work and because I'm feeble physically. It's because I tripped. I tripped on something on the steps, or I caught my toe on the step and I went. So that they make sure the names being called are correct character evaluation. Steph says, I think those that were bullied can take the name calling. And when they name call back, it's with meaning and intention. There's teeth in mine. And It's because they've absorbed so much unjustified abuse. Yeah, maybe so. You might be right about that. And who? Me, Elderberry? Smarty Pants? Don't call me names like that. But I am. Yeah, there it is. He said, "Oops, I called you a name." And so there you go. And by the way, Elderberry, and anybody who doesn't know this, we're no longer on Odyssey Radio. Russ has shut down Odyssey Radio, and so we're not as strictly bound by the time elements as we were before. I still like coming in 3 minutes after the top of the hour to start the show. Gives people a chance to get in there, and we start a little pre-show. I didn't do the pre-show tonight. I just let it ride with the graphic, and then we started with the music. So, yeah, there is no time limit anymore. I could go all as long as I want. Just letting you know. I was wondering about that, said Kalina. Yeah, it wasn't for any reason other than Russ has so much going on that he just could no longer dedicate enough time to making Odyssey Radio work. And he had to push that aside for his other stuff going on. Go check out Trek Federation, TREK Federation.com. That has been Russ's mainstay for 35 years. And he's working on that. And they've opened up a new mall store for their Trek memorabilia and museum, really. And in a big mall in Ohio. And so you can find that all on his site, see pictures of the place and things that are going on. It's where I mentioned, and it's exciting, that he's building a replica of the 1960s Star Trek original television series bridge set inside his store. They've got an old Gap store is what they have there. And so they've got a ton of space, and they've got an area in the back that's going to have a stage. And they're only doing a half of the bridge. So you're seeing it as if you're standing with your back to the view screen on the old bridge and looking at the bridge. So they're doing that half that you would see normally in the TV shows. Where in Ohio? Asked Kalina. Damn it, if I can't. I want to say it's Columbus area. Dayton or Columbus. I know it's not Cincinnati because my dad lives in Cincinnati and it's hell and gone from there. But TrekFederation.com. Let's see if he's got his address on here. Let's see. Where are they located? Well, here's the shop. Oh, that's just their online shop. Let's see the about. Let's see where they are. And by the way, this is right from his website. Roots in Roddenberry. The Trek Federation was started during a telephone call between Federation founder Russ Hasledge and Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry. The conversation started with the question, what should the ultimate Star Trek fan organization be? The answer from Roddenberry was an easy one, though it took some guidance for Hasledge to reach it. Do what the crew of the Enterprise does in every episode. Go places and help people. And so this is what they've done. They launched this June 1st, 1984. And they do community outreach. They're in Sandusky, Ohio. The Federation. 4314 Milan Road. And, well, that's the old suite number. They were in Sandusky. I think the mall is in Sandusky, too. They moved the headquarters into the mall location. Let's see. I want to see if they have... if they say anything or they've got pictures about the mall store itself. You can enlist, you can blah, 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 blah. I don't see, the mall's not popping out for me on the website. Federation HQ, I think that's it. If you go into the About in Federation HQ, the headquarters is staffed solely by volunteers. That's the store. That may cause our open hours to differ from time to time, but from basically noon to 5. And you can call them. And there are pictures of the mall store over on their website. And if you're a follower of this show, of course, you can see you remember the drawings I did that I helped. Russ hired me to lay out the mall store and take the photos of the Gap and create the store out of it. So the look of it, that was for his investors. So there you go. You'll be in Ohio Memorial Day weekend. All right, Kalina, how close is that to Sandusky? So what's the big city that Sandusky is near in Ohio? I have no idea. Tell you the truth. So this is the I know I've shown you some of these, but this is what his store looks like. If I go to his folder here, Federation, which I've got here. I've got it right here on my screen. Federation, there it is. And I've got his Federation HQ logo and the mall drawings. These were fun. This is where let's see a good shot of this for you. You can see a photo over on his site, and there's actually a video there as well. But this was I'll show you a couple of pictures from this. That's the storefront, which is it just shows you from the exterior out in the mall. But as you walk in, I've got these pictures that we did of the. Oh, is it near Toledo? I've never heard him mention Toledo. I don't think he's near the Detroit area. So Sandusky. I want to say it's Columbus, but I might be wrong. Here's one of the pictures I did. It's all digital, showing the storefront, and I put in the counters and the chair he owns and different racks and wall things way up on the soffits up above and all the different things, the door decals that he put on things, things like that. So this is what his store looks like right now. These are the drawings I did, the digital drawings ahead of time to give his investors an idea of where he was going with things. And then this was kind of looking the other direction from where you're standing here. It's a big, long store with, like, you come to this red desk at the back of the long part of the store, and then it turns off to the right. And so looking to the right, you got this. And he originally had put in a little stage area in the back corner with these big wall graphics of the old bridge and the Enterprise and things like that, and all his merchandise in there. And so that's what Russ was doing as he did this. And then he asked me one day, he said, would you design the what this store would look like if back in that stage area we built a bridge set? And I was really excited about that. He wanted me to come out and hopefully be a part of helping to start design all of that on hand there. And here's what just the digital drawing looked like. Was this thing. Oh, it's taking a while to load. So it must be a big file. So this is what Russ does with TrekFederation.com. They do not just the community outreach, but they headquarter that now at the mall where they sell all of this merchandise. Don't you wish, if you're a Star Trek fan, don't you wish you could go into your local mall and walk into a Star Trek store? And of course, now they don't have just Star Trek. They also do Star Wars as well. And they've got a big Star Wars section. He's got one of the big Enterprises, the big, I don't know how big it is. I want to say it's 6 feet long or something like that. I don't know if it was I think it was a filming model. And so anyway, you see this back corner here now where I've got a couple of chairs and the red stage. Well, now we converted it to this. And this is what's being built in there now. And this is going to be something where people can come and sit in the captain's chair or the helm or the navigation chairs or any of the chairs on the bridge, get their pictures taken. I think Russ is going to probably going to rent it out for groups that want to use it for meetings and things like that. Star Trek fan groups and things like that. So I think that's going to be very cool. And when Russ gets this all completed, I think it's going to be phenomenal. And he's got a big ass store in there. So if you go to, again, trekfederation.com, and I forgot how I got here, but to this, but this is his, let's see. Let me see if I can show you. This is how this looks right now from the mall. Oh, wait, he's got more pictures in here. Here, let's do this. I'm going to share my screen with you so we can show you more of what Russ is doing. So let's take this out, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Boom, boom, and boom. Now let's go over there, Federation. So here is off of Russ's website, and you can see here. Yeah, we'll just leave it right there. Okay, this is a look in from the mall. And if you go all the way to the back, you can see way in the background the red countertop back there where you check out. And to the right would be the stage area. But as you walk into the store, this is what you're seeing. There's the big open main aisle. They do events and stuff in there. But you can see their merchandise and all the stuff they're doing. Here's the store. So, and they're just starting. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner here, all these graphics that we put up into the soffits. I designed a lot of these for Russ. I think that's Russ walking down the aisle right there, if I'm not mistaken, with his back to us. So this is their just their offices there. And that's the backdrop they have behind the chair right now, where they're going to be building the bridge set, which is very cool. Can't wait to see that. Can't wait to sit there, take some pictures there. So these are just a few pictures in their location now, out in the mall. That's looking toward the mall entrance right there. So it's a big store, and I think that there's Russ in the gold captain shirt. And that's where the stage is going to be, in that corner. So you're seeing what they're doing there. So Russ has done a good job. He's continuing to do a good job. He's continuing to build this place to make it into something pretty spectacular. That's Russ back behind the counter over there in the gold. So I don't know how many pictures he's got up here. I'm just scrolling through them as we're talking. So now the store's only been open for a short time, and so they're getting this thing going, and they're going to make it a reality and keep expanding. There's the stage back there. That is the corner where the bridge set is going to be built. Not just the exact dimensions of the stage. The stage is probably going to have to be opened up a little bit wider to add the set in there, but that's where it's going. And so you can see all their stuff. And so he's sinking all his time into this. And this is why Odyssey Radio is something he just could no longer dedicate the time to it to make it work. So there you go. That is Trek Federations. This is called Federation HQ is the store. And you can get just about anything you'd want to get there. Star Trek wise. Of course, there's a ton more stuff Star Wars wise. But there it is. There it is. Now we're back to the first picture. All right. So there you go. That's what Russ is doing. And that is why, let's see, hide that, stop screen. Boom. So there you go. And Russ sent me this, by the way. I've shown you this a million times. He sent me this little baby. Whoop. So, and it hooks up to my Bluetooth here in the house. So sometimes I forget that it's on and I answer a call and it comes through the phone or through the communicator. So that sits on its stand over here charging. So there you go. It's a little bit about Russ. It's a little bit why things have looked a little differently around here the last week, because this new change of Odyssey Radio being put into the back burner has just started over the last week. So about a week ago. Anyway, there you go. Boy, now that I see myself, I'm looking pale and pasty when I'm actually kind of tan right now. It's my lights. It's the weird lights here. So actually, I'm not as pasty as I look tonight. So there you go. I'm going to open this up. And of course, one of the beauties of not being on the radio station is now we can take calls even during the show. So that's an option now. So, but we can take calls tonight as well. Let me send out the invite if you want to call in. Copy. And I'm going to paste it into the chat room. There we go. And there we are. We'll take it from there. If you guys want to talk, we're officially in the captain's cabin. Maybe we ought to just play that. Here we go. Listen to this. All right, now we're officially in the captain's cabin. So here's what we're going to do, though. I need to take a little break. You would, too, if you had 2 liters of Simply Lemonade in your system. So I've got to take a little break. You can connect the dots there if you'd like. So I'm just going to throw up tonight's graphic. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. Hang on. Stand by, I should say. How about that? Bring me up. There we go. Hey, I'm back. Ta-da. By the way, there's the culprit. Simply lemonade. I cracked this open when I went upstairs to get some fruit juice. And I was so disconnected because I was a bit lethargic from the low blood sugar. I thought all I need was, I felt like that character from the original Men in Black. Sugar, water, sugar. I needed some sugar. And I ended up guzzling that whole thing. And there you go. There it is. But I'm all better now. So, how's everybody? Here we are, Captain's Cabin. I had to take a little break to run upstairs and deal with this much Simply Lemonade in my system. So, anybody still here? Anybody want to chat? Anybody want to talk? Anybody want to call in? Kirk kisses alien women. He sure does, Field Guy. And that became more of a thing. They didn't start his character that way. You know, they wanted the Kirk character to be somebody who was not a womanizer, but the romantic hero. And he had a couple of his flings, but it turned into that in the series. Yes, he became quite known to be the woman's man. So, according to this, I've got 10 of you still in the chat room. Anybody here? Anybody want to chat? If you're here, raise your hand. Let me know you're here. And because that was an inauspicious way to end the broadcast for the night. If that's what we're going to do, is me walking out to pee. But there we go. So come on in. If you want to talk, if you want to talk about the bullying thing, if you want to talk about anything, you can call in. You can be part of the show. Otherwise, we'll wrap it for tonight. And I wish I had the girl from Ipanema. Is that how you say that? So I can just sit here and go like this and wait, and the background will go dun 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 dun. So there we are. I'm seeing no response out there. So I think all 10 of you, 11 of you here, it says that are here. Oh, we got Sarah. Sarah, did you come to make me stay up late? So here we go. Sarah, how you doing?
Hey, Scotty.
How's it going?
It's Monday.
So. It is definitely Monday.
Definitely.
You know, it felt like later in the week to me most of the day today. It's a gorgeous day outside. I did some work down here in the studio, and then I went outside to try to fix my lawnmower in the early part of the afternoon. And it's an electric mower, and was unable to figure it out. So I took it apart, put it back together. It's an electric mower. If anybody out there knows electric mowers, or if you do, sir, it starts and then it stops. And it won't maintain going. So I don't know what that is, but I tried to fix that. So other than that, but that made it feel like it was a Saturday for some reason. Although, you know, I don't strictly adhere to weekday and weekend because I work for myself. And if I got to go fix the mower on a Tuesday, I go up and I fix the mower, or a Monday, such as it may be.
Yeah, I can't help you with that aside from pointing you towards some YouTube videos. But
I looked at YouTube videos. They had every model, how to repair stuff on it, until it came to the model I have. And then it just had advertising videos. The biggest, battery operated mower that we've got is this one. Come and get it and look what it does for your lawn and blah, blah, blah. But give me nothing. I opened it up. It didn't look anything like the other models when I cracked open the thing. And they're relatively simple. But it has, they said if your mower is doing this, it could be a starter issue, like the cable. You know, when you have bike brakes and it's got the cables? Yeah. And sometimes you have to open it up, pull the cable and tighten it up because your brakes are too loose. And so it was showing that. And Up and up, there's nothing like that. The cable I have is just a black tube full of wires that goes from the switch on the top and the handles and to the junk on the inside. Nothing looked like there was even a starter in there like they were describing. There was no cable. It was all wires. So I didn't know what to do. I hope it's not my motor. That means you basically got to get a new mower. So, or get a new motor. What's it going to cost you? Get a new motor and put it in and undo all the wiring, solder all the wiring, which I don't do, electrical work. I might bring it to a local guy and say, can you fix this? And if he can't, it's going to be new mower time. That's what I think.
Sure.
Scotty's mower talk. I can talk about mowing the lawn. That's a euphemism, of course. Just trying to see who's alive out there. It's you and me.
Not much, apparently, but
Yeah. I mean, people will catch it in reruns, but it looks like there's not a lot of live participation. Maybe it's because I took off for 5 minutes in the middle. So,
I mean, to bring it back to the subject of bullying, and
Yeah.
when you call it what it is, it's verbal attacking.
Hey, Kalena.
It's
He's out there.
verbally attacking someone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as the name calling and stuff, which for me, if you're in a productive discussion, if like you were saying earlier about your posts and whatever on Facebook and all that, if someone has already reverted to name calling into entering that into the conversation, that means that they've already lost.
Yeah.
That they're out of reasonable arguments. So then you're just trying to sling mud or whatever, cause harm, verbal harm.
Differentiated a bit because you got political candidates that will all the time. Some of them are classier than others. Some of them are more blue collar than others in their verbiage and the way they handle things when they're campaigning. Fine. Everybody does it in that respect. But I don't like when you're trying to carry on discourse about what was said, what's being done, what the policies are, and people revert to calling you or the candidate names, and that's all that's all they've got. Like, for instance, I can look at Trump and I can see he's the king of name calling, but at the same time, he offers up his substance too. Same thing with these folks. It's like, if you're gonna, okay, we got the name calling part down. I know you think he's an orange turd or a senile old man or this or that or the other thing. Now tell me, why do you support the other guy? And tell me what he's got. What's he doing for you? What's the Biden administration done for you? Why do you think it should be kept in place?
I think the persistence of name calling, particularly in politics and whatnot, it's also, I mean, it definitely in Trump's case where he's done it over and over and over again.
Sure,
it's that he's trying to make an association, right?
Yeah.
If he calls, Crooked Hillary or Lion Ted,
Yes.
or he says it over and over again. That's how he's making its impact into, people
Right.
who
He
are
wants
watching
people
him.
to be able to repeat that. Well, that's
Right.
Crooked Hillary. That's Crooked Joe. He said, I've dropped the Crooked Hillary. It's now Crooked Joe, he said. And then you look at the people who follow him. Are they all mindless apes? That's what people start to associate. Well, the followers are this or that or the other thing. I look at Biden followers and I go, there's got to be some people who have reasonable reasons other than just he's against Trump for wanting to vote Joe Biden into office. It's because they trust the handlers, the people that are actually running the country. It's not the president. And the same with Trump. People say are they all going to be these stereotypical things that have become the things that we name call? And And I look at all that and I say, okay, give me substance. Tell me what's this guy doing versus what this guy is doing. That's the one thing I say to all the people who just insult Trump and that's all they've got. Okay, fine. You got that out of your system. Now tell me why I should vote for your guy. You're trying to convince me that the guy I support isn't any good. What's good about your guy? And then they sometimes, rarest of occasions, they'll be able, that's usually where they fall silent on social media. Okay, I've heard your piece. Now tell me why. And the conversation stops because they got nothing. They're mimicking or parroting what the narrative says on their end of things. And I say,
Right.
well,
And
give me
I think,
substance.
yeah, I think at least, for both candidates, on both candidates, it's not like there's also a sense of fatalism, or I don't know if fatalism is the right word. It's not like they're excited to have Joe Biden back or excited to have Trump back.
Right.
It's they're trying to avoid the other scenario.
Right.
It's I
Right.
mean, it's like people are in a I guess what you would call a fight or flight mode, in that they're going to pick on who's
Sure.
going to affect me the least, who's going to cause the least amount of harm.
And that makes sense.
And each side is going to think that whoever side wins, they're going to just have to endure until the next 4-year cycle comes around, and then they have another shot.
Yep.
Of having their views or their political stuff being.
Elderberry, by the way, Elderberry has ghost stories, and he says, I need a better internet service, then I'll be in. So we'll wait for you, Elderberry. Oh, and by the way, hello, Claudette. Good to see you. So you just made it in, Claudette. We were almost going to end because there weren't very many people in here. Wow, I must have gone really long on the show. Not having to take that break because we're ending the radio audience has lengthened the shows. The 3 that we've done without having to worry about radio breaks. So, because it's already 10 minutes to 11. Wow. So I must have talked an hour and a half at least.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I am lining up guests, by the way. So we're going to have some different formatting going on. And yeah, I think I agree with you on that almost completely. Because
you don't have to sound so surprised.
Yeah. That's weird. I think we agree on a lot of stuff. We have some basic things that we disagree on, but I think we're both. I think what it comes down to, for me, the name calling issue and all of that goes to whether or not somebody has the ability to discuss the issues without lapsing into calling the other person names. All right, can you discuss it? Yeah, you don't like Trump, but give me something other than he's an orange turd. Or you don't like Biden. Tell me why. Don't just tell me you think he's a senile old goat. Tell me why. Give me something. And I always ask people that. I say, tell me why I should be voting Biden. And it comes down to what you were just alluding to, that many of them are like, because we don't want Trump in office. And I wanted them to take that further. Well, why? Why don't you want Trump in office? And this goes down to how we debate, how we discuss, how we dialogue anymore. Don't give me just narrative drivel. Give me something of substance. If it's name calling, that's one thing. And, that's it, but it goes beyond that for me. I want to know, if you really think your guy is better than my guy, convince me. And it ain't because the other guy is the purple eggplant in office. That's not going to convince me. Right. Oh, okay. Oh, you're talking about, okay. He looks orange because he uses fake tanning stuff, obviously, and that's why I shouldn't vote for him. Give me more. Give me substance. Give me something to go on.
And you also have to remember that in most people's day-to-day life, throwing insults at somebody is simple and
That's
easy, rather
barroom
than
brawling to me.
rather than sitting down and, like you said, discussing the issue, and because that takes time, and most people, they either choose to listen or they don't choose. It's like
Right.
on or off, on or off.
Right.
So I mean, we have to like kind of like not woke, but reawaken the sense of curiosity.
Yeah.
of what's actually going on, and seeing what is actually
Agree.
going around. Like, I mean, even I was thinking about it earlier today. All what the media is doing is covering the Trump trials right now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, who's covering what's actually going on in the country? I mean,
Yeah.
laws are still getting passed.
Right.
It's not like the entire Congress is sitting and waiting, doing something. They're slipping stuff under, trying to get stuff
Yeah.
passed, and
They don't
then
want people to
are
see
not
it.
talking about it. They're not
And-
talking about it. They're rather than trying to nitpick and get every single angle of one thing. I mean, we have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
I think, and some of that is of course, which is become almost cliche these days, the 24/7 news service, and everybody's got to be there to get the first words out of somebody's mouth or the first report. I watched a recording of a show that was from this morning from Fox News. I like a couple of their talk shows on there, and it was what's her name? She does Outnumbered, I think is their show. They have 3 or 4 of the Fox women news anchors and a guy that's somebody in the news or government or something, and they talk about issues. And it was Harris Faulkner, and I was watching that, and they were coming back. Okay, we're coming back live now. We've got the live, and now we've got the recording of this, and now we've got our reporter Eric. What's his name is outside the courtroom is going to say this, and Trump might be coming out any second, so we got to be ready to cut away, and things like that. And I'm okay with that to a certain extent because I want to know what's going on. But frankly, when it all comes down to it, all I really need to know, I need an update on that. Give me an update. Okay, Trump was in court this morning. Michael Cohen said this or said that. And 2 minutes in, you're done, and you're moving on to the story, the rest of the stuff going on in the country and the world, frankly. I get that. I'm with you there. I do think the Trump trials are important, though, because I happen to believe, from everything I've looked at and all the dots I've put together and all the everything, it's all pretty much, pun intended, trumped up. There's not really everything that's going on with this trial right now. As of today, I've seen several legal analysts looking at this and saying everything that has been presented in that trial to date, nothing establishes any evidence that there was any crime. And they said bringing people like Stormy Daniels in, an absolute irrelevance, because she had nothing to do with what the charge is about. The charge was, did Trump illegally list payments out? It could have been payment for a speedboat or covering up sex with somebody, which is not illegal. Non-disclosures over stuff like that are not illegal in New York. And it's not illegal. The federal government already looked at this case years ago and said, we're not doing it. There's nothing to it. And so Bragg, you got to ask the question why Alan Bragg brought it up, because he vowed to take down Trump any way he could and stop him from being reelected. And so I think it's important from one perspective, in that whether we like Trump or hate Trump, the people should decide whether he should be in office, not, as they're calling it, lawfare.
Right. Well,
Is that what's really going on?
Yeah, at this point, at least from what I believe, people, regardless of the outcome, people are going to believe what they want to believe. Right now, they're trying to determine if there's any actual criminality to it, whether it, they think it's because of, the catch and kill thing. Is that even legal, or were they
Right.
trying to influence the election by not letting this information
Right.
come out, or the selective release of when the timing of information comes out? Because I mean, it's the same thing with what happened with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama when
Pretty much.
when that thing was his name, James Comey,
Yep.
released all that thing right before the election, and it tipped it over to
Yeah.
Obama. So
Yeah.
so
So should there have been a moratorium on releasing that kind of information that close to an election? Those are questions we have to ask. We always hear about October surprises for November elections. That's why those have been named thusly. Somebody comes out with something that's supposed to be scathing against the other side. And to me, I don't want to hear that bullshit. I'm just, let us all decide who we want to vote for. Same thing with Trump. If they're trying to prevent him from getting in office, let the people decide that. And are they trying to have trials? Would the trial to try to prevent him from getting in office be the same or worse or less than what they're claiming he did by marking an expense as a legal expense? They're calling it campaign interference. Would the trial be a campaign interference? That's the big question. And there's a lot of people who are saying this is actually helping Trump. Because there's a lot of people are looking at this and going, no, this is not the way we operate in the United States of America. And you may not have people compassionate toward Trump, but you're going to have people that see it for what it is, that it's really election interference. And this is somebody trying to take down an opponent to the power base that is in office by trying to find any way possible to make sure he cannot run. I guarantee you, and we talked about this before, I went off on it before, that if Trump were not running, you wouldn't see any of this happening. You really wouldn't. And there's a plan behind it. So that's why it's important to me. Anyway, that's why I started to see what's happening. Kalina says this is a bench trial and the judge is biased against Trump. And so is the DA. That's true. Those are truths. Those are not even opinions. That is the truth. Both the judge and the DA already are biased against Trump. The judge and his wife are huge advocates, anti-Trump advocates, as was Erdogan over the other trial with the woman that claimed Trump raped her 30 years later after she wrote about it in a book. And that's somebody who I think is a little wacky. Now, if anything happened between her and Trump, I don't believe it was rape. And neither did the jury in that trial. They were kind of like reluctantly, well, there might have been something there. But they didn't have enough evidence. There was nobody there. There was no way to prove anything other than her word. So they were just forcing Trump into appealing that. Because a woman 30 years after the fact, after writing a book about it, claiming 8 other guys did the same thing to her and saying she rather thought the rape was exciting and said that Trump raped her in a dressing room in a store. And I don't think so. Trump might be many things. I don't think he's a rapist in a dressing room in a clothing store. But they couldn't let it go. They couldn't. How could they have ruled anything about that when there was absolutely zero evidence that it happened? How could he get anything other than an acquittal or a dismissal? Yeah, she couldn't even remember the date. Well, I don't have so much problem with the date thing, Steph, unless you're talking decades. She couldn't remember what decade it happened, but it was 30 years ago. So that's one trial. Now, what they've done is they pushed it into an appellate court. So Trump now has to appeal that. Meanwhile, he's got to pay this exorbitant figure to get there. So it's nuts. And if you tell me this is not for the purpose of, who is the DA that, not Fannie Willis, the other one, what's her name? She is a woman of color as well, in Georgia. What state is she in? The other DA that's...
the other one is in New York.
Latrina?
Letitia James.
Letitia James. She's pushing to try to get Trump's properties seized. That was the case with the rape. She's pushing to get his properties seized. Or was that? Am I mixing them up? Anyway, she was pushing to have his properties seized before he even could tell them if he could make the payment or not. Well, if he can't make the payment for his bond, we will start seizing his property. What does that look like? We're going to seize this man's holdings and property over this trial, even though he's going to appeal it. Eey. She got pissed because he said she's not his type. Says Steph. Oh, you're talking about the woman who cried rape? Yeah. And there was the trial that was associated with her. This thing was a trial where she was also suing him for defamation of character, something like that. Because he said nasty things about her when she started claiming he raped her. You know what? Woman claims I raped her and I didn't. I might say nasty things about her myself. So I've never been accused of rape. I was accused of harassing a woman once in our office when I was a creative director. And I came down in no uncertain terms because the owner came to me and she, woman, it was a woman-run agency, owned. And she said, so-and-so in the office claimed that this, and this is her letter. And I read it, and I looked up at the owner, and I said, do you know what a bunch of unmitigated bullshit this is? I said, no. I said, I don't buy it. And I said, if she wants this to go to court, I said, I'll meet her there. That's fine. And this is back in the 90s. And there were things this young woman would do that were, and she was a cute young woman, but there was stuff, she would come into my office and flirt. She would lean over my desk with cleavage hanging all over. And I'm sorry to put it that way. It looked nicer than that. And it was worth looking at if you're a guy or a woman who likes those things. She'd lean over my desk. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she was flirting. And every guy in that, there was only two of us, two guys in that company, me and an artist that I hired. And we both knew it, what she was like. But that was back before everything was built politically around, be very careful what you say and how you say it, you know. And so she teased, we all teased. We all ate lunch together every day. We all hung out. We all frequented each other's offices and sat down, had coffee, and joked around and all the time. And she leveled that claim. And I asked the owner, I said, why did she, what's prompting her to make this claim? I said, I'm a happily married man, and I did not sexually harass this woman. And I wrote a letter back for the record on that went into the file there. And then I said, there is no way this happened. And I named a bunch of things that she had done. And I said, if anybody was sexually out of line, it was this young woman because of the things she did and the way she acted. So there, I went off on a little personal story there. But just say, as Steph says, just say it. LOL. Tits hanging out. Yeah. Pretty much. It was pretty much. So, Elderberry, Steph, with all due respect, your physique is impressive. That's from Elderberry to Steph. There you go, Steph. You have an impressive physique. So anyway, I don't know. You're pretty quiet over there, Sarah, because I'm just blathering at the mouth. But this is the kind of stuff. This is why this all came from me saying why I'm interested in the trial. I do think it's an important part of American history. This is the first time a former president has been brought to court on charges, and there's 4 of them. And I got to tell you something. I don't think even thinking people on the left have got to know. People who hate Trump have got to know. This is pretty foul ball. All this stuff going on. This ain't the truth. All this stuff being thrown at Trump. And they've got to know it. And I think this is why you're seeing Trump going up in the polls all the time. I just saw somebody bald-faced lie today saying all this stuff about Trump being up in the polls. It's a lie because, Biden's up here and here and here, and it's all a lie, and this and that's a lie they want you to believe. I go, wait a minute. That's a lie all by itself. You're a lying liar lying with your lies because that's not what it says. Polls are polls. We all know that. They can change in a heartbeat. But right now, Trump is up by almost 7 points in every one of the swing states. If the election were held today, the polls say Trump would win by 12 points minimum. Stuff like that. That stuff is out there. And I think what you're seeing is a kickback that the left did not expect by putting Trump into all these trials, trying to break him financially, trying to put him in jail, all because he's running again. It's not the way America is supposed to work. And it's like,
it ties back to the name calling as well. It's all methods of trying to influence someone.
It is.
We're trying to influence.
They're trying to influence the outcome of the election.
Right. So, as far as, mudslinging, back in the day or current day or whatever you want to call it. But there seemed to be like a loss of, what do you call it? Gentlemanly courtesy or something like that.
Which was bad back. Do you remember some of the political drawings? Have you ever seen them? The ones during Lincoln's campaign. They were drawing pictures of him as an ape and calling him nasty names. Cartoons in the newspapers back then, 150 years ago.
And we haven't even evolved much since then. Because if it didn't work, the idea would have fallen away. So there has to be something to it. That it appeals to people at the most base level. Rather than
Chuck asks, all the things against Trump, all the things. What's against Biden? How many charges is he facing? Well, the right hasn't been in charge, being able to lead that charge to try to prevent Trump from having an opponent. The right hasn't been in that position to do that. But Biden has certainly been accused of a lot of things that have been brushed under the rug. There are things that Biden has been accused of that were it Trump or one of his kids would have been all over the compliant news media. So, Chuck, I get where you're coming from, but there are no charges against Biden because nobody's brought them that far. Nobody is trying to prevent him from running for office by charging him with a crime. But there have been a lot of accusations. Why aren't those pursued? I know they are trying to impeach Biden. And I think there's a lot more than the media would like to let on with that. There's a lot more substance to that. I don't follow that. What's deflection? I don't think that's deflection at all. I think that's the pure, simple reason that you're not seeing any indictments of the president. Number one, he's a sitting president. Number two, you don't have the other side trying to prevent him from running by indicting him on everything they can find in the book Why hasn't Hillary been indicted for some of the things she's done that are the very same things they decry Trump for? Why isn't she indicted? Because the right isn't the one in charge of doing that, and the right has never been the ones to do that. Cite me examples where the right has ever done that to the left.
But I do have a question about that. I mean, when Trump was in office, why didn't anything happen to Hillary?
Because he dropped it. He was asked that question. So remember during the campaign, it was there was a line, but it was like getting Hillary in jail.
Lock her up.
Lock her up. Well, people were asking in his first year, why aren't you pursuing Hillary? He says, because the campaign's over, I'm not going to do that. Now that I'm in the office, he says, doesn't need to be done. Move on. And
I mean, is that the correct decision then?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. I think she should have been at least indicted for some of the stuff she did. So, yeah, Steph said she destroyed evidence. Out and out. They knew that. And yet Comey came out and said there's no reason to indict her. He said she's guilty as shit, but we're not going to indict her. It's basically, you remember that famous press conference he had. I don't like either one is clearly worse. And that's the opinion. That's the political opinion. And Chuck, that's why you and I don't have any problems with each other. We're on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes politically, but I still like you as a friend. So it doesn't matter to me. It's viva la différence. You know, I think Biden is worse. I think what Biden has done to the country is worse. What he's leading the country to. And again, I say Biden because it's his administration. I don't think it's Biden at all. I don't think Biden should be running. From a pure, not because I think my guy couldn't beat him. It's, trust me on this, a pure humanitarian issue. I don't think Biden should be running. I think he's being pushed into running again. Biden needs to be retired. It's obvious. You look at him from, even I heard him speaking in a recording the other day from during the last campaign. And remember during the last campaign, you remember that, Sarah? The right was already saying Biden is slipping. Oh, he's slipping almost everything he said. But you listen to him from the last campaign 4.5 years ago and listen to him now, night and day. You listen to him from the old campaign, you go, wow, that was Biden? Was that from like 30 years ago? No, that was the last campaign. He has slipped that far in cognitive awareness, cognitive capacity, just to let him retire. But he's obviously happy to do what he's doing. He's being taken care of. He's looked at as the, at least in position, as the leader of the free world. That must appeal to him. Jill, you can tell there's been a lot of things I've seen with the body language specialists and little clips and little things you aren't supposed to see behind the curtain where you can tell Jill's about had it. With Joe, it's for show right now. And you've got to wonder, without being cynical, being a realist, what has she been offered to play along with this? Because I can tell you what, my wife would never let me be put in that position if she really loved me and cared about me. Jill should be standing up for her husband. No, my husband can't do this. And he will not. So it almost makes me ask, what have they got on the Bidens? That's where your mind goes. It goes to conspiracy because it doesn't make any sense. I would love to see I'd love to see, as much as I would never vote for him, I would love to see the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Let's see Gavin Newsom go up against DeSantis. Let's see that presidential election. My meaning behind that is not because I like or dislike either man, but it's, let's see let's get some new blood in there. Let's move on from this. I would like to see Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I don't agree with everything about Tulsi Gabbard, but and I liked her before she left the Democrat Party. But there's people that I go, she comes across very conservative about some things. Some people are like, well, no, she believes this and this. That's very liberal. I don't care. I think she would do a better job at running this country than many other people out there. I'd vote for her in a heartbeat if that was the choice.
Yeah, but you also
So-
have to consider it takes more than just personality to
Yeah.
do the job. You have
It
to
does.
do it based on their ideology.
Yes.
And any candidate, from what they've promised on the campaign trail, when they actually get into office, it never gets done. I mean, no matter what they say or
think-
do, if they actually did what they promised on the campaign trail, that'd be all over the news.
Do
I
we
mean,
know any president who's been able to fulfill all his promises? I think my opinion is making a promise and saying, I could do that. Let's say I'm running for president. And I would say, I'm going to do these 5 things are my goals for office. And you push that and push that and push that. Then you get into office and find out you can only do 2. Because the other 3, there's so much other crap to be able to get those things done that you can't accomplish them. Biden hasn't been able to fulfill promises. Trump didn't fulfill all his promises. He worked hard at it, but he didn't do it. He got close on some things. He had to modify things. Every president who's ever been elected to office has made promises. But I think they get into office and find out probably the things none of us will ever know about. Why wouldn't somebody like a Bill Clinton had been able to get into office on some of his campaign promises, not be able to fulfill all of them? Is it because there just wasn't enough time? He did have 2 terms. Was there not enough time in 8 years, or was there resistance, or were there things going on inside of government that we just don't know about? Trump's wall fail. Yeah, Trump didn't have a wall fail. He built 500 and something miles of wall. He wasn't able to finish it, though. He said Mexico's going to pay for this. And we were all like, yeah, let's do it. Well, Mexico didn't pay for it, but they paid for it around the backside because different things were done. And I think Trump had to modify a lot of them. Once you're in there and realize there's some things that just can't do, I promised that, but there's no way to do it. What do we do now? How do we modify that? Oh, you're a stinking liar. Well, no, maybe it's like either party getting into office, not having the ability to do the things that they thought they could get accomplished. So,
I mean, it feels like you have, it's like
There it
the
is,
same
Steph.
thing in business. You want to under promise and overachieve rather than do
Right.
vice versa. And because
Well,
it makes you look like you're competent, at least. There's
what are some of the things that Trump said he'd do if he got elected this next time? He would work on mass deportations of the 12 million people that have been let in the last 3 years into the United States. That's more than the population of some states. That people don't realize this. There's a lot of illegals in the country. He would work on that. There were things. So the border is going to be a big thing. He would lock down the borders. People say, well, what are we going to become, isolationists? No. He wants to lock down the borders till we can get it figured out. You don't just leave the door hanging open while you're trying to figure it out. You close the door. If I'm trying to figure out how I've got people coming in and stealing stuff out of my house, maybe I should start by locking my front door and then figure out a better security system.
Well, that's also, what I don't understand. If the border is that bad, that much of an issue, why isn't the military involved? Because that would count under defense.
Because
wouldn't it?
this administration is not allowing that to happen. That's the problem. The problem is, what did Biden say? What was one of the things he was saying before? Was it before not the midterms? What was it they were talking about? And he said, I'm preparing an executive order to close the border. It was leading up to the State of the Union address. So everybody thought he was going to announce that at the State of the Union. And the big question is, well, if you've got the ability to close the border, why aren't you doing it now? Why do you have to wait till the State of the Union? Why do you have to wait until it's a political achievement or some political thing to it to let everybody see what you're doing to save the border? And if you know it needs to be closed so much that you're crafting an executive order to close it down, why are you leaving it open? And why is it still open today? Because he never implemented it. Why didn't he implement it? What's the reason for leaving the border wide open? While Mayorkas is saying the border is closed. Mayorkas is a big, fat, stinking liar. There's my name calling for the night. Border is about as closed as my ass. Well, bad analogy, but the border is not closed. The border is wide open. And what about those, was it about 200 people? Do you remember the films from a few weeks ago where they rushed the southern border, broke down the fence, rushed the National Guard that was there, and they finally broke in, and they were a bunch of them were detained, brought up on charges. It was just last week. They were all dismissed and let go into our country. Why? Why are we allowing this to happen? One of the jobs of the executive branch is the protection of our borders. The president's job. If Biden has the ability now, for political reasons, to issue an executive order to close the border, why didn't he do that 2 years ago when the problem was becoming very evident? There's a political reason behind it. And that's the problem. This is the stuff that makes me shake my head. And you say, if it's as easy as signing a piece of paper, why isn't it being done? When there's an obvious problem. And that's where all the talk is coming in about, well, they're going to issue a general amnesty and give these people all permission to vote. That's one of the scuttlebutts going on. That's been talked about in Congress. And so the big question is this trying to build an illegal voting bloc? Is that one of the reasons behind it? It certainly can't be because we are compassionate as a nation and we let everybody in who needs to come in. We don't even know who's coming in. We're finding there are Chinese coming in through that border. There are people from the Middle East. There are, and I can't quote exact figures here and exact countries, but they are finding there are tons of military-age males coming in from the Middle East, coming in from China. They're not families seeking refugee status. They're military-age males. Why is this being allowed to happen? Is that not a dereliction of duty when it comes to protecting the United States and protecting our borders? This is one of the things that people say, this is an impeachment level offense, not taking care of the job. It's leaving America more vulnerable. And so I that spun off of me saying, what are some of the things Trump is promising if he gets reelected? He's promising to slap those borders shut and to deport as many of those people who can still be found who have not soaked into the American countryside. And I think, and we think it can happen, but Sarah, maybe you can comment on some of this too, but I think that what you're seeing is something that could lead to the literal downfall of America. I'm not using that as rhetoric. I'm saying this could lead to the literal downfall of the United States if you've got militants from other countries in the hundreds of thousands. What does that do to our security? Why isn't this a bigger issue in the news? Why is the news media supporting? Well, they're starting not to. That's the thing. And they're also starting to, guess what? The New York Times, viciously opposed to Donald Trump, put out a news article just today or yesterday stating why all these trials are I don't know what the word they use, but while all these trials that Trump is being put through are ridiculous. And they're a news media outlet that is not supportive of Trump. Here. Let's see if it comes up. I can't really look at the New York Times because you can't look at their articles unless you subscribe. But they wrote something about they've got Trump on trial. Michael Cohen, key to Trump trial, tells jury of seedy whatever, and I can't read much more than that. But there's something, even the papers that are against Donald Trump, the news media, which you used to hear that years ago. It's now what media outlet is pro this guy or anti that guy? They're supposed to just be giving us the news, right?
Well, it's also been the news is not the news. The news is meant to be entertainment now. It's sensationalized.
Yep.
It's sensationalized. I mean, rather than just tell what's going on, then you have, applied spin and everything this way, which, people makes it all the way harder to understand and navigate and make good decision making.
Yeah.
So
right here, I can see the headline here on the New York Times from 8 hours ago. Michael Cohen, key to the Trump case, tells jurors of seedy hush money plot. And the subhead says Donald J. Trump's former bulldog told jurors about his work, threatening enemies, cleaning up problems, and burying embarrassing stories. The subhead doesn't say told them how Trump did this in the case of Stormy Daniels. They're trying to set a precedent, just like Michael Cohen, the do-anything fixer who once boasted of burying Donald Trump's secrets and spreading his lies, took the stand, blah, 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 narrating the prosecution's case in a tell-all detail. Mr. Cohen testified that Trump in 2016 had personally directed him to pay off a porn star and had approved a dubious reimbursement plan. Just do it, the former fixer recalled Trump saying about the hush money payment to the porn star. Well, here's the thing. Something else that came out. I don't know if they're going to get to it in this article, but it wasn't Trump's idea. It was Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen even recorded Trump, which is against client attorney privilege. It's a breach of ethics. But they were playing some of the tapes today. And all you've got is him saying, and then we'll make these payments. And Trump's going, payments to what? To who? You hear him in the background. And he says, well, the payment, and he never names anything. And Trump said, just take care of it. Now, is that tacit evidence that Trump has directed somebody for campaign interference to pay somebody off? No. So this is the thing. Just do it, is what Trump said. It says, after Trump had won the White House, Mr. Cohen demanded his money back. He said met with Mr. Trump, who approved monthly reimbursements. Then the president-elect changed the subject to his new job, saying, this is going to be one heck of a ride in D.C. So, and they make that even sound, the newspaper, like Cohen demanded his money back. Well, he was on the payroll. He was somebody that Trump paid. He didn't demand his money back. He said, here's my bill. And Trump said, okay, we'll pay it. We'll cut you for your services rendered. Here's your payments. So this is what's interesting, is how the way news is presented. Over nearly 5 hours of testimony, Mr. Cohen painted a damning portrait of his relationship with Mr. Trump, decoded their shady vernacular, and spotlighted the conduct at the center of the first criminal trial of an American president, the silencing of women who had stories of sex with Mr. Trump to tell and sell. So this is all about discrediting Trump. It's not about any, and legal analysts keep coming back and saying, that all may be well and good. Nobody may like the fact that Trump was accused of having an affair and paying somebody to silence them. It's that that's not illegal. It's done all the time. Not that it makes the actions right. It just means it's done. It's always done. And that's what they're saying. Well, what's the evidence that there was illegal activity? So now is it just an attempt to embarrass Trump? I don't know. So let's see. Mr. Cohen's star turn marked the climax of the prosecutor's case as they formally introduced the jury to a witness who has loomed over the trial and could trigger the former president's downfall. He brought the case's architecture into focus, offering firsthand corroboration of what jurors have heard from other witnesses. He also wove a sprawling cast of characters into a single narrative, saying that Mr. Trump, bent on winning the presidency, had orchestrated the cover-up of scandalous stories. Mr. Cohen recalled playing an intimate role in concealing or spinning away the stories that could have had torpedoed Mr. Trump's campaign. None was bigger than when Miss Daniels shopped her account of a sexual liaison with Mr. Trump, which Mr. Cohen said posed a catastrophic threat. Total disaster, Mr. Cohen quoted Trump saying. Women will hate me. This is what Cohen said Trump said. As jurors jotted copious notes, Mr. Cohen said that Mr. Trump did not confirm if Miss Daniels' story was true, but acknowledged knowing her and called her a beautiful woman. And when Cohen was unable to quash the story promptly, Mr. Trump blamed him. I thought you had this under control, Mr. Cohen recalled Mr. Trump saying, drawing a scoff and a laugh from the defendant. In a crucial passage of testimony, Mr. Cohen directly tied Mr. Trump to the hush money deal that kept Miss Daniels quiet. Mr. Trump, he said, initially conveyed a general instruction, just take care of it. So Mr. Cohen ultimately did, paying $130,000 to Miss Daniels, silencing her in the campaign's critical waning days. So once Mr. Trump was the question that has to come to mind, which should be the defense's first question, is of her should have been, why was money going to take care of the problem for you? Why were you looking for money? It was extortion. That's why. Well, Mr. Cohen ultimately paid $130,000 to Ms. Daniels. Once Mr. Trump was in the White House, he reimbursed Mr. Cohen, and according to prosecutors, adopted a plan to falsify records that disguised the repayment as ordinary legal expenses. The prosecutors, who are expected to conclude their case this week, charged the former president with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, 11 checks, 11 invoices, and 12 entries, which is really one big thing. It's one, they're saying what he did was falsify records. Well, they're charging him. People say, well, you got 34 felony charges. It's 34 felonies for the one big thing, divided into 34 pieces. But they're saying none of it reflected the true nature of the reimbursement. And on Tuesday, Mr. Cohen will return to the stand as likely to testify about an encounter with Mr. Trump in the Oval Office, where prosecutors say the two men confirmed the plan to disguise the payments. And soon afterward, Mr. Cohen began to receive the checks. On the stand Monday, Mr. Cohen recounted how he had conspired with Mr. Trump and the longtime publisher of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, interesting name, to protect the campaign. Now, Pecker actually came off and for the prosecution, being a prosecution witness, pretty much without saying, I stand for Donald Trump, pretty much the things he said were not any evidence against Trump. So it's interesting. He's saying they plotted to promote flattering stories and suppress the damaging ones through so-called catch and kill deals. And so on, and so on, and so on. The only thing that was on my mind, said Cohen, was to accomplish the task and to make Mr. Trump happy. Now, what's interesting is Cohen's doing prison time right now for lying to Congress and perjuring himself in court. So that cannot be emphasized enough. Let's see. This is just interesting. This is why I like to know what's going on. Mr. Cohen's testimony brought the men face-to-face again on Monday, and only in New York, collision of spotlight-seeking showmen, bombastic personalities, expert in operating the twin engines that propel the city, media, and money. Though hailing from different worlds, Mr. Trump, a real estate scion, Mr. Cohen, the child of a Holocaust survivor. Okay, that's equating the two different roles in life they had. They were creatures of the same ecosystem, sharing a gritty, argot, and tough guy personas that belied fragile egos. Mr. Trump bestowed a sense of importance on Mr. Cohen. Blah, blah, blah. This is just talking about them. Of course, Cohen has been online for the last several weeks, making money off of T-shirts and stuff like that about how guilty Trump is. And let's see, what did they say here? For weeks leading up to the testimony, prosecutors had inured the jury to Mr. Cohen's outsized personality as they elicited testimony from witnesses who had little love for the former fixer. That move was designed to neutralize the defense's attack on Mr. Cohen as a liar, motivated by a deep-seated desire for revenge. He is also, as the defense is fond of noting, a felon. In 2018, Mr. Cohen pleaded guilty to federal crimes, some related to the hush money payment. Prosecutors are offering Mr. Cohen nothing. On it goes. So, on Monday, Mr. Cohen seized the moment, delivering a steady performance that could offer him a measure of public redemption and personal revenge. But next, the defense will cross-examine him, and it could be brutal. Mr. Trump's lawyers are expected to seize on his credibility, or as they see it, his lack of it. Mr. Trump, who faces probation or as long as 4 years in prison, has cast himself as a victim of prosecutorial overreach. He has attacked the district attorney who brought the case, Alvin Bragg, who watched Mr. Cohen's testimony from the courtroom on Monday. And even as the judge has imposed a gag order that prevents Mr. Trump from attacking Mr. Cohen and other witnesses, the former president has summoned political allies to the courthouse to do his bidding for him. It's funny that there's no gag order on Cohen. Aren't gag orders supposed to protect the defendant? Not the other way around? That's the purpose of a gag order? I don't know. Thoughts?
Given the current, political climate and the extremism that could be found on either side, which, there have been claims made that, the judge, everyone involved, the judge's family and all that stuff, Trump, even people on Trump's side being threatened by, the other side. There has to be some form of protection. I mean, yes, the judge did put a gag order on Trump to say, you cannot talk about my family. You cannot threaten his daughter about this case. So, just because, they're claiming that the judge or the judge's wife, the judge's daughter, they may lean a certain way ideologically, which, the wife and daughter, they have no bearance on
Well,
the case
keep in mind,
itself.
I think it's a difference. There's a big difference between leaning toward one candidate or preferring a candidate one over the other versus being an advocate for and a financial supporter of that candidate.
Right. There's definitely a difference there. But I mean, but in terms of are they're quite if they're saying that whether it's Trump supporters or they think that another conspiracy that Trump is directing his supporters to attack the judge's family or whatever, that are they questioning the judge's ability to be impartial?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I think what Trump has said about this, he said, I think this is a very conflicted judge. I've heard him say that more than once. He's conflicted. He said in the sense there's a conflict of interest with this judge. And he said it's extreme, and he's right about that.
But where did that conflict arise from?
The conflict arises from the fact that he is a political advocate for the opposition party, which the charge that's out there is that the opposition party is ringleading all of these legal charges against Trump, and that they should have a neutral judge in there. So not a judge who's supporting either party with their money. Their whole family does, as a matter of fact. So, by the way, I looked this up. The Stormy Daniels owes Trump money. That's something Steph just brought up. The judge ordered her to pay Donald Trump another $120,000 in legal fees. And isn't this why Michael Avenatti is in prison now over all this stuff?
Michael Avenatti's in prison because of I think it was another fraud case or extortion case that he was running.
Yeah, it was something like I thought he was associated with her as well.
Well,
but I might
he
be
used
wrong.
to be her lawyer.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
But Daniels is on the hook for nearly $300,000 to Trump. So that's interesting.
And we as people, who have lives and, we go to work every day, how are we supposed to sort through all this?
That's the thing. How do we sort through it? Well, we're supposed to rely on the news media. And the big question is the news media trustworthy? Can we rely on the news media?
And if the answer is no, then what are we supposed to do?
That's it. And here's the problem. I think what we have to do is we need to listen to both sides as it's presented. We need to weigh out the facts as best we can. And sometimes I've said it goes to the credibility. When we were talking about if we talked paranormal issues, I remember when all the charges came out against Jason and Grant of ghost hunters, that it was obvious that there was tampering and there was faked evidence and you could see it on camera and stuff like that. Well, my answer to that was, I said, when it comes to questions like this, I said, I go with what I find the credibility of the individual. I said, I happen to know Grant Wilson very well. He's a friend of mine. And I said, I believe he is a credible person. And everybody's like, well, Hollywood can make you do anything. Granted, I get that. But at the same time, I find him credible as an individual. And that was part of who he was. It was part of, he's a Mormon. It was part of his religion. He was very religiously Mormon. And so that statement I made, it goes to the credibility of the individual. It depends on how credible you see somebody as being as to whether or not you believe their word on questionable issues like this. So the big question is, do you find Trump credible? Well, you've had The media, which is at they came up with the number 86%, is a number that was factored into by looking at all the media, saying you only got 86% of the media that would be anti-Trump or anti-right, that are leftist. When you've got that number, is even an objective news source going to give you objective news? Or are you going to get news that is going to slant toward their political bias? This has been going on since I was in high school in the 70s. We've been hearing about this stuff. The slanted news media. So there you go. Now, like Steph just said, I don't feel Jason is credible. I know thangs, she says. Well, I think there were a lot of people that chalked that up now to whether or not they believe Jason was credible in that story. I don't know. I had different problems with Jason. We buried the hatchet, but after several years. But I had my own issues with Jason, but I'm not. That's a totally different issue. When it comes to Trump or Biden, who's more credible? When it comes to Michael Cohen or Donald Trump, who's more credible? Like the New York Times said, and probably rightfully so, both scions of money and greed and entertainment, and you see that. I don't for a minute believe Michael Cohen, and you notice that even where he says he has these recordings, and we heard some of them today, those recordings weren't damning at all. They weren't even naming what they were talking about. Cohen said, we were talking about this case. Stormy Daniels doesn't say that on the recording anywhere.
I'm surprised the recordings weren't thrown out, because I mean that would have been considered admissible in court, right? I mean, because
New York is a one-party state.
Yeah,
meaning you only need one party to record something. So they were allowed, but I find them as relevant as Stormy Daniels being called to the stand. She was irrelevant because her testimony, anything Stormy Daniels had to say, absolutely immaterial to the case. The case is all about proving whether Donald Trump falsified his records. Whether he stooped Stormy Daniels or not is irrelevant. It's whether he falsified records. So all Stormy Daniels was there for it was a show trial. It's dog and pony show. Trying to embarrass Donald Trump, if you would. I think he's unembarrassable, personally. But he'd have some splaining to do. But he's come out and said that he never did it. Never had an affair with her. She came off with this tawdry story, but she is also represented as somebody who's written over 150 porn stories and four porn movies. Making up a story is easy. She's also somebody who denied it ever happened in writing several years ago. But the question is, was that part of their agreement, their non-disclosure? She could have said anything she wanted to. If the non-disclosure said, we'll pay you $130,000, but you have to have a letter saying it never happened. What's the truth there? We don't know. So there you go. Let's see. Tell the truth. Oh, that's right. The father and like daughter. I'm not sure what your... I see. Centauri and Cody. Yeah. Sticking up for Jason and Grant. That's his kid. I get that. So anyway, well, look at this. We've gone 3 hours tonight. And
that's surprising. I wonder where everybody's at, though.
I think people have kind of stepped back from my show because of all the time I had off a couple of months ago. And I think there's some of that. I think maybe my content isn't as driving as some people would like anymore. So I think there's some of that. I'm not the new kid on the block. I'm not the new Turk in there. I have to keep reinventing and innovating to make this show palatable for everybody. But I got to tell you what, I don't want to reinvent that wheel. I just do this to talk. Talk about stuff that's going on. I try to make the show appealing and palatable. And for being a show that a lot of people say they like, it's not a show that a lot of people support. And I don't know if my numbers have dwindled, but I know my YouTube numbers doubled last month, and I didn't know why. I have not seen any indicator of why my numbers have doubled, but they did. Is it because, is there something to content that YouTube holds back your site from being seen by people? I don't know. That was one of the charges out there. So it's interesting. I think you asked the simple question. I wonder where everybody is. Well, people don't stick around anymore. Half our people don't even come in until the show's already over. I don't know if that's for hours they have to listen. My hours haven't changed any. So, when I was gone for a few weeks in a row there, I was off and on. I was gone. I think I'm just another internet talker to a lot of people, and they just go somewhere else. So, but then I've got my very loyal listeners that come in, like you and Steph and everybody else. So there it is. I'm not sure what Chuck is calling BS on here. My life is just fine, he says. That's great. Chuck, like we've said before, if you've made investments in you're in a position in life that a lot of people have never been able to do what you do. Even though you're not a mogul, you're not a multimillionaire, there's a lot of people that haven't been able to invest like you do. They don't do the stock market stuff. And you tell me that the average person, that their life is not affected the way yours is not, that they're not affected by it. I think most Americans are. Housing is more expensive. The stuff that people wanted to buy,
food, gas,
and gas, it's all up. And if your investments are good in your house, Chuck, you told me, this was a public post, so I'm not revealing anything. You said your house went from something like, and I'm making up figures because I don't remember what you said, but it went from like doubled in price in the last 2 months. And that's fantastic. You can sell your house for twice as much money now. But you know what? The people buying that house, their wages haven't gone up any. It's more expensive to buy that. The house now costs twice what it did 2 months ago. And so it's only going to appeal to a certain level of Americans out there. So when people accused Trump of only raising or lowering taxes and making things better for the rich, well, the rich are the only ones that can afford your house right now. What did Biden do for the common man? Nothing in 3 years, 3.5 years. So the common man is not, oh, well, he's making sure abortion is safer, or not safer, freer. He's working on that abortion issue. That's a political issue because I don't think he gives a rat's ass about whether a woman has an abortion or not. And 20 years ago, Biden was seen making speeches against abortion, being anything other than, he called it, Biden's own words, abortion should be safe and rare. But it's totally different now because it's a political position that will get him the votes of that segment of society. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot of pandering out there. And I don't see Trump as a panderer. That's why I lend him credibility. He can give a flying rat's ass what some people think. If he believes it's right and it's constitutional, is right for the country, he'll do it. That's what I've seen him do anyway. So, where he makes his stand on things. So he said, I would really like to see Trump era oil production go back into play. Trump asked somewhere, he says, how'd you like that $1.63 for gas? He says, we're going to do whatever we can to make that happen again. And because he said, a paraphrase, of course, of Sarah Palin, drill, baby, drill. Didn't he say something like that? He said, or maybe he quoted her. He says, when I get in office, one of the first things I am going to do is reopen all of that production, which has been closed down for new Green Deal cronies. And you got to ask why that exists. So if we're the only ones we're actually doing it, what's China doing? Nothing. And how much does it really affect us? Has to be regulations on it, but there are ways to produce oil and keep it clean. So, yeah, Biden has made groceries go up 26%. But you know what? Biden doesn't go grocery shopping either. That's why he insists that things are fine. I know he made it unsafe and took away rights from women. It's a feckless hack. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Steph. Took away what rights? So I have a lot of reasons to not like Biden, and it's not because of party. Because, number one, I'm not a Republican. I voted Republican. I'm not a Republican. And I have problems with the Republican Party. I'm an independent. I'm a Jeffersonian liberal, is what you can call me. I'm very conservative in that respect. But I'm like a lot of people because I'm socially, I tend to be more liberal. But fiscally, I tend to be more conservative. Economically, let's put it that way. Well, signing into law that men can go into women's safe places, dressing rooms, sports, etc. Yeah, I agree with you there. There's nothing better about honoring women than telling women that men can do it better and allow them to play your sport. Women of the Year. Wasn't there a Woman of the Year that was a man? Something's wrong with our society, I got to tell you. And one thing I learned very early in school, the downfall of all the great civilizations out there all came from within. Corruption from within. And they degraded and crumbled into nothing. Look at where our country's going and ask yourself the questions. What are the things that make it better and stronger? And what are the things that look great and wonderful and oh, so caring and loving of our people when actually those are things that are destroying us from the inside out.
Empires rise and fall.
They do.
It happened with the Egyptians. It happened with the Greeks. It happened
with the Romans.
It happened with the Ottomans. It happened with
Of course, they say we're still kind of in the remnants of the Roman Empire right now, our form of government and all of that. But we'll see. Well, hey, it's been officially 3 hours and 1 minute.
We've done Professor Bauer proud.
What's that?
We've done Professor Bauer proud, probably.
Yes, we have. And as he might say, well, now that we've entered hour 3, let me talk and we'll make it go to hour 4. You know, I would love nothing better than to do this show. I'd do this show 3 hours a day if it was my means of supporting myself, but it's not. So I'm not on public radio, and not public in the sense of NPR, but, I'm not on commercial radio. I don't get paid to do this other than what you guys give me. And wow, what a segue. You can click the little join button down below. It tells you 3 ways you can support this show here on YouTube. And you can go over to my Patreon site. And for as little as $4 a month, you can support this show. I want to do some things. I was just watching a show with my kids today. They've really gotten into, some of you may know who they are, Sam and Colby. a couple of kids that started, I think, during their high school days, just doing weird, crazy kid YouTube videos.
Yeah,
That
that's not
focus,
my generation.
yeah, and a little too wacky and goofy for me at the time. Wacky wasn't the good word. It was stupid. I looked at some of the stuff and I went, these guys are stupid. And they started getting into the ghost hunting and doing more sites. And the more they got into it, like 6 years ago now they're in their early 20s, and they still do some weird stuff, but they're actually getting pretty good at what they're doing. And total fakers, says Steph. I don't know about that, Steph. I thought that at first. I think they may have done like anybody else, sensationalized things in order to get views. But they've been debunked by who? Who's debunked them? Who has gone along with them and reported and to see what they're doing and how they're doing it? I've seen some of the stuff they've come up with, and well, I watched the debunkers. Yeah, I'm curious. Are they debunking because, see, this is where we can't trust anybody anymore.
Again,
I don't know
it's
who's
the
debunking them and why.
Yeah.
What's their motivation?
Yeah.
Is it because they're really, see, Beardo, Kenneth Biddle, I don't even know who that is. Kenny Biddle. I don't know who that is. So his word to me, he's nothing. He doesn't mean anything to me. He's nothing. His family is nothing. I don't know him. No, I don't have a side-eye guy. I don't even know who that is. But I don't know Kenny Biddle, and if I do, I don't know him by name. Show me a picture, maybe I would know him. Kenny Biddle.
I would be
Side-eye
more
guy.
interested in what research he was looking into.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in the paranormal field, it's gone into the same thing with the news. It's gone to sensationalist.
See, I'm looking at this author, Kenny Biddle. He's a science enthusiast who investigates claims of paranormal experiences, equipment, photos, and the video, promotes science, critical thinking, etc., etc., etc. Steph, let me tell you something, and anybody else. There was a guy out there when John Ward and I were doing some of our paranormal stuff, and we were doing, John was doing his archaeological work. His wife is the archaeologist. John is not an archaeologist by accreditation. It's by practice. But we were putting up with criticism for some of the things we said in our radio show, our books. Our first book was the Exodus Reality. He debunks Jason L. Oh, all the time. I see what you're saying. I'm comparing somebody, Jason Colavito. I don't even like to invoke his name. But he's somebody who claims he is a scientific thinker. He's got his degree in this, and he has set about trying to discredit anybody who was anybody in these weirder fields. He had a big thing against Scott Walter, America Unearthed, that he would go in. Scott would go in and talk to him, debate him. But of course, Jason had all of his sycophants would come in and attack anybody who said anything that was different. John Ward and I were his poster boys for a while and Jason presented himself as being the scientific thinker, the reasoned skeptic, when all he was a debunker, attempting to debunk. And I took him to task once on his own forum. I said, it's interesting that you want to debunk us, but never once have you asked us for an interview. You never talked to us about anything. You've never asked our take on anything. I said, how can you claim to be an objective reporter of these things when you've never even asked us for our version of events? And he called me out as racist. Wrote a big article on all his supporters. Yeah, get him, nail him. They call me racist because I wrote about when I was writing about Noah and the ark in reference to the flood story. And I said, in the language of the Old Testament, said Noah was a righteous man, pure in all his generations. And I said, what that meant biblically, pure in all his generations, was that he was from pure-blooded human lineage, as opposed to the mythological mixing of celestial blood with human blood. Okay, so we know the story. He called me racist for calling Noah pure-blooded, and he made a big case out of me being a racist. And I asked him in his own forum, I said, are you serious? I said, did you even read what you wrote? I said, I'm talking about mixed human and celestial beings. I said, does that sound racist to you? If anything, I said, it's humanist. So it was interesting. I've run into these types of people, Steph. And I had go around for 6 months with Colavito. And the stuff he would say, everything John and I ever did, he would write a new article debunking us. And from a scientific point of view, when he was never right about what he was saying, he came out and tried to claim John Ward was a Nazi because he had used an old Nazi symbol in symbols around a ring that he was using for his logo. And John actually went as far as to have me redesign that thing because of all the heat he got over what Colavito said. And it's not true. John's not a Nazi. When our trailer came out for History Trippers, which you can, if you go to my website, you can see it. Just go to scottallenroberts.com. Scroll down, you'll see the trailer for History Trippers. You can watch it there. It's 6 minutes long. And he came out and decried us as, well, first he was saying he's so totally open-minded and everything, but he thought we looked like two gay lovers doing our thing. And this is the guy who's supposed to be coming from a scientific point of view and just a skeptical, critical point of view. So I only bring him up to say, I've experienced the same thing as whoever this Kenny Biddle is. Maybe he's got credibility. I don't know him. I've never listened to him. Never seen what he said. But he right away falls into this quick category for me of guys like this Colavito guy. They're there. They will decry anybody who's making. That was the thing of Colavito's. He decried Scott Walter, me, Jason and Grant, anybody who was making money off of their books or their TV shows purporting junk science, he'd call it. And yet he was trying to sell his book about all this. Like, aren't you trying to make money off the same thing? I said, everybody deserves to make an earning off their living. I said, if you're going to do this and you can make a living at it, why not? You'll just get better and better as you keep going. And, but Kenny, maybe he is very professional, Steph. I'm taking your word for it. But I immediately put him into a category as this other guy who also claimed to be professional, critically minded, scientific, had degrees behind his name, wrote a couple of books, all of this stuff, knew his stuff, acted professionally. Yet at the core of it all was debunking people who didn't need to be debunked. John Ward and I didn't need critical analysis of what we did. Although everybody should be critical of everybody. I get that point. But he was there to try to take us down because we didn't follow the same methodology as him. When he read a segment of How to Be an Archaeologist, and it had the archaeologist in there, it says something about being it's just teaching just the facts, man, matriculate them out 1, 2, 3. I can't remember how I stated it. and I was criticizing the educational system, saying you have to go you have to toe the line in the educational system, and I was decried for that. And he got archaeologists in decrying me for that. And I said, "Did you read the whole section?" I said, "There's more to it than that line." It says it basically the gist of the whole thing was, you get your degree, you get matriculated out, but you'll find that on top of the education, there's the stuff they don't teach you. The weirder stuff, if you will, the spiritual stuff. That's not always taught. And that's what I was getting at with that. There's the other stuff too. And so I basically told him to fuck off and didn't talk to him anymore. I stopped. I spent an inordinate amount of time defending our positions with him. And I thought, I'm casting my pearl before swine, because they've taken it on themselves to debunk everybody when not everybody is wrong and they are right. So I understand that stuff. I would have to see how he's debunking. Is he debunking something because it could be this or that or the other thing? Is he debunking it because he was there and saw what happened and said, well, I'm debunking this because that's fake. It was faked. Or is he debunking because he doesn't think it's real? There's two different ways of debunking something.
You have to sort of gauge and determine if there's malicious intent.
Right.
Because, I mean, there's debunking in order to advance the field, and make everyone work better. You either rework it in a slightly different way and make it better, or you're just trying to tear people down.
Right.
Which people do to, feed their own ego. They think they can seem better than somebody else by stepping on someone's neck.
Yeah.
It doesn't. In reality, it doesn't, make you look any better, just because you have the ability to tear someone down, try to, destroy someone's work and career. And, after.
Yeah. Well, I had some, and I've had more than my share of that.
Right.
So I had Colavito. I had Dr. P.Z. Myers, who is professor of evolutionary biology at the University of Minnesota in Moorhead. And he's got a very big name for himself with the TED organization and with his critical skepticism out there. And he was one who would, in his own words, he was an asshole skeptic. And he was. And he was, in his own words, he was, I'm trying to remember how I stated it once. He said himself, I am an asshole promoter of atheism, which is what he was. He was an atheist as well. And so everything. And I was in a debate with him, an open debate at a big event. Then we had about 400 people packed into that room, that ballroom, listening to this debate. I actually was lured into that to have a discussion about ancient aliens. My book had just come out, The Rise and Fall of the Nephilim. I said, sure, I'll discuss that stuff. And it wasn't until I was sitting there and the mics were being turned on that I find out it's a debate with P.Z. Myers and another archaeologist, Harvard grad archaeologist. I'm like, nobody told me this was going to be a debate. I'm not prepared for a debate. I came prepared to just wing like I do on the radio. Just talk about, I thought it was going to be question and answer and talk about the topic. Nobody characterized it as a debate. So I definitely lost that debate in that room, which was packed with P.Z. Meyer followers. And they were all, I saw it happening. He had a iPad and people in the audience were texting him things to ask me. And I thought, that's not a prepared debate. And it was interesting. I remember making the statement, when researching this, I found that there are over 600 cultural tales of a flood story. and cultural tales from major societies down to tribal stories that we've gotten. And everybody starts, the whole audience is rippling with laughter. And then the archaeologist leans into his mic and he goes, "There are not 600 flood stories." Suspect. And everybody, he almost got a standing ovation. I'm like, and I asked the audience, I said, "So let me understand this." I said, "I say that there are. He says there isn't. He gets a standing O, and I get laughed at." I said, "Isn't this kind of a he said, she said? You can decide who's who." "Well, he's got the education and the degrees behind his name." I said, "Well, there it goes." I said, "You won that one. You got a degree. He's got a degree." And that's the kind of way the whole thing was treated. And afterwards, I went up to their little after party. And I came in and we were at this big event. Everybody has these cabanas that face the pool on the inside of the hotel, where everybody has, if you got one of these cabana rooms, they put on these little public parties that all the attendees can go to. 20,000 people at this event. And that's held every year up here in Minneapolis. And so we showed up at their little after party. And some young woman, college age, she sees me. I go, "Hi." And his room is packed. And she goes, oh, like this is expression. And she turns around. She goes, He actually came. And I'm like, "I was invited." And so I had a drink with PC, and he was very docile back there. And I said, "I throw a symposium." So I've got the Paradigm Symposium. So I'd like to invite you to come and speak. "Wow," he said, "I'd be kind of in enemy territory there, wouldn't I?" I said, "Well, where was I tonight?" I said, "I did it. It was enemy territory, and I wasn't even prepared knowing it was a debate." I said, "I'm not inviting you to a debate. I'm inviting you to come and give a couple of presentations on your point of view." And he accepted, and he showed up. And what was interesting about that, he got on, I introduced him, and the audience at our symposium, some people were booing him. And I said, No. Right from the platform, I said, No. Do not boo Dr. Myers. I said, he is a very respected man in his field. I said, he's got opinions like we do. I said, treat him with respect and listen to what he has to say. And it quieted down. And so PZ got up there and he gave his thing. And he started by saying, he was talking about aliens. He said, being a scientist, he says, and the kind of person I am that you all know I am, he says, do you know how much I would love to have proof that there are aliens? He said, I would be the first one on board. That belief system, that belief in those things. He says, that fascinates me. I would love for there to be aliens that we can prove. He says, I just don't believe it exists. And he gave his reasons, and he gave a very good presentation. And I thanked him, and everybody clapped for him. I thought he did a very good job. And then we found out he's sitting at the table back there afterwards when the next person on was Scott Walter from America Unearthed. And he's speaking, and PZ's back there. He's doing his critiques or whatever. And people said, did you see what PZ wrote? During that, he wrote a scathing article about your event while sitting at the table there. And I said, you're kidding me. Oh, well, that's what it is. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. You get it. So all I'm saying is I've dealt with these kind of people. Like if Kenny Biddle is the same way, he's a debunker because that's what he does.
Well, the only
science, and maybe it is. Maybe he's just fine at it. I don't know.
Well, the only way is to look into him and see what he's about. That's the only way you're going to figure.
That's what I'll have to do.
Yeah.
See,
so
that's the last thing on my priority list now. But now it's on my list. So, anyway, we got into that, and we've got another 20 minutes. So, I got to get out of here because I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
I got to get up in the morning, take kids to school.
I just want to give everybody one last reminder. If you have a subject or topic that you want Scotty to discuss, rather than, having him pull out random stuff on the day, be sure to
Yeah,
write in the comments on what this type of stuff that you want to hear about,
let's do
so
it.
he can work on.
Maybe Kenny Biddle would be a good guest.
Sure.
So I'll look into him and see, maybe invite him and say, come in and present your case. I want to hear what you have to say. Might be fun.
Yeah.
So that's all we got. Sarah, thanks for being here and sitting in for so long.
Okay, thanks, Scotty.
All right, talk to you soon. Have a good night. Everybody else, guess what? It's time to go to bed. Well, you don't have to go to bed, but you can't stay here because we're signing off. So thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for supporting this show, all you diehards out there. And let's get out of here. So until maybe I'll be back tomorrow with Wendy for Robertson. I know she was going to have a really tough month with all these shows she's doing this month. So it might not be tomorrow, but for sure I'll be back on Wednesday, pending death or sudden tragedy or emergency or anything like that. I should be back on Wednesday. So all of you, you have a good rest of your night. Thank you for giving me your time. Live long and prosper.